Hi. We're going to try something really, really different today. We're going to go ahead and start with some meditation. Okay, deep breath in. And out. Deep breath in. And out. In. And out. A lot of people think that meditation is about clearing the mind, and it's quite the opposite. It is not at all about clearing the mind. You are not supposed to clear the mind during meditation. You are supposed to go into the mind and explore it. That is what you are supposed to be doing. Now, advanced levels of meditation is when you are supposed to try and work with the mind to discipline it. Discipline it is when you put something under a structure so that it follows a particular desired routine. It is literally conditioning. Literally conditioning. But conditioning is a science and an art form. Conditioning is brainwashing. And it is a very, very dangerous business if you do not know how to do it or what you are doing. You are stepping into the subconscious mind and you are literally shaping it into whatever it is you want. Except if you use violence or aggression to do this, you are actually conditioning violence and aggression into your subconscious mind. If you are doing this with knowledge, gentleness, love, you are going to succeed in conditioning gentleness, love, and nurturing into your subconscious mind. However, it is not the desire that you are conditioning into the subconscious mind. It is your actions. So if you constantly repeat the same mantra over and over again in an attempt to rework your brain, what you are really doing is contradicting your logic, which is lying. And that causes your subconscious mind to respond and to attack. So mantra repetition is actually highly aggressive on a subconscious mind. In order to win your subconscious mind over, you have to use logic. It's the only way, because the subconscious mind only speaks in logic. The subconscious mind is so fluent in logic that it builds story out of logic, which is why all of us are obsessed with story. Do you want to know how much we spend every year just on movie, television, and books? Like, we are obsessed with story because the subconscious mind is nothing but story. So this got me thinking about everything. And I have been on a journey. I have been on a journey that no one else has been on. And I just recently came back from my journey. And I saw things and learned things on this journey that we never should have forgotten. And my cats just spooked themselves. It was really funny. One of my cat number 2 came up behind cat number 1, and cat number 1 went, ah! It was really funny. When I came back from this journey, I had found knowledge. I had found information that we have forgotten, that we lost. And when I tried to communicate it to people, it was so foreign to people that they argued with me instead of listened. That was discouraging because what I found was truth. And the reason why it was so foreign to them was because they had that much lie inside of them. That when I told them truth, they couldn't understand it. And that became the norm. And every person I talked to who argued with me, the information I found is online. It's documented. It's well researched. It's all over the place. It's right in front of our faces. But what I learned was how to connect the dots. And when I connected the dots, it told a different story, a very different story. It's like, I'm going to give you the Harry Potter books, but I'm not going to give them to you in order. I'm going to instead give you the highlights, and I'm going to put them on pieces of paper, cut them all up, and drop them in a jar. And then you're going to draw them all out, and whatever you draw out is the order of operations. You're going to get a very different story. A story is composed of two elements: the milestones or the events, and the order in which they take place. The ordering is vital. Now, every ordering has one piece that starts the entire story. This is called a catalyst. It is the thing that launches. It's the why. It is the why. If you give a mouse a cookie, the whole thing took place because you gave the mouse a cookie. The rest of it just launches the whole book. History is exactly like that. There are milestones and events. But the ordering, well, it's not so much that it's out of order. It's that a lot of pieces were forgotten or are missing. So in this case with history, it's that the information is incomplete. And when I went on this journey, it is something that I later learned is referred to as, well, it's the pursuit of Rata. That is what it is called. It is the pursuit of Rata. And when I got to the end and I discovered Rata, I didn't even know the name for it. I just called it truth. I called it the point of comprehension. And I would study and I would look all over on the internet and I would talk to people, and no one today has any idea what I'm talking about. It was very just so discouraging. Because we all are supposed to be pursuing Rata. That is the human purpose, is to pursue Rata. The meaning of life is to pursue Rata. Scientists are pursuing Rata. Spiritualists and religious people are trying to pursue Rata. People who are mentally ill decide to pursue Rata. And you are either someone who has decided not to pursue Rata, or you have decided to pursue Rata. The people who do not pursue Rata are unethicals. They are toxic abusers. They are defilers. And the people who have pursued or are pursuing Rata are the people who are attempting to live ethical, prosperous, abundant lives. This is not a new story. In fact, this is the first story ever told. It is the first story. It is the first one. The very first one. That is what I found out when I got to Rata. I found the first story. And I went, oh my God, we lost this. Now, there's a lot of Hinduism. There's a lot of Hindus right now going, no, we got it. Yes, they got it. They got it. They got it. Rata is a Hindu Vedic word that is related to and is brother, sibling, sister to another word called Asha. And this is where the Vedic really starts to toggle with other religions. But this is where it gets really interesting, because I found 3 religions, but these 3 religions are actually the same religion. They're just told differently. And the founder of all of this is a common denominator that is located in every single one of our religions, the common denominator. It's in the Muslim religion, it's in the Judaism religion, it is in the Christian religion. It is in every single religion. It is King Solomon, the wisest of all. And he passed this information on through his temple, which was really a university. And the people who studied under King Solomon were called Zoroasters or Zoroastrians. Zoroastrian is the world's oldest religion. It is the first religion. The Zoroasters then went on, and this knowledge made its way into the Vedic and also into India, where it became Hinduism. It is literally the root and the seed of Hinduism, but it's also the seed of Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. It's also the seed to everything. I don't know how. I do. I know how, because the Silk Roads existed. So it did make its way over to Japan and Tibet and China and all through the Silk Roads, because everyone was pursuing Rata. You have heard of karma. You have heard of dharma. What you don't know is Rata is their parent. Karma and dharma are the parent of Rata. Karma and dharma are the tools to get to Rata. But no one's talking about Rata. Everyone's talking about karma. Just like in the Christian religion, everyone's talking about Christ and God, but no one's talking about King Solomon. And just like in the Judaism religion, everyone's talking about whatever they talk about, but they're not talking about King Solomon. And just like in the Islamic religion, everyone's talking about Muhammad, but no one's talking about King Solomon. The parent religion, the core, got lost, forgotten, which was King Solomon. And the Zoroasters, because King Solomon taught the truth and how to find the truth, he passed this on to Zoroasters. And because they were schooled in the truth, they did not come out with a variation. They came out with the exact same replicated answer. And when the Vedic was written and it went over into India and gave root to their religion, because they studied the science and art of truth from Zoroaster, they too had the ability to come up with the exact same conclusion, Rata. There was no variant. There was no variation. There can't be. It's a constant. Rata is a constant because it's true. In fact, when you have the variations, that's the first sign that it's wrong. The truth is the constant, and it requires 2 for balance. And it's these 2 pieces that are literally the scale. You could think of Rata as the fulcrum, and scale side 1 and scale side 2 as being the balance. So dharma and karma, but Rata. And this information was then passed over to the ancient Greeks. It was given specifically to Pythagoras by Zoroaster himself. And Pythagoras passed this on to Plato. What they did with this knowledge was they composed and created all of the ancient Greek educational system and philosophy. Except this philosophy, this information was destroyed in the 4th century in 380 CE. And when it was lost in 380 CE, we lost King Solomon's knowledge, we lost Zoroaster, we lost all of it. The only thing that remained after that was the Vedic religion that evolved into Hinduism. And the parent was forgotten. But the parent contained all of the information and the structure required to develop Rata. So Rata was forgotten, and as a result, only karma and dharma remained. And they became the new parent religion, except they were not truth. They were tools for truth. So what ended up happening was basically a copy or a clone, a first generation evolution, but an evolution nonetheless. And as a result, this first generation evolution went on to evolve over and over again. The constant, Rata, was a constant, which meant it would have prevented the evolution of all the variations of all of the stories. Because humans have a really big problem with evolving, because we do. We're changelings. We evolve. We can't not do it. We evolve. But to have a constant is to allow us to constantly stay relative to the original. It's why we require our parents so much, is because we evolve and grow, but we have the ability to always look back at the original and go, that's who I'm supposed to be, or that's who I used to be. It's a point of origin. It is literally how you navigate who you are, by always looking back at where you came from. It's important to always remember where you came from. So you must always have this point of origin. And when you are dealing with trauma, what you are really dealing with is a lost point of origin. That is really what you are dealing with, is this massive gutted point of origin that's completely gone. So you need to restore and define your point of origin. For many of us, it's the pursuit of our point of origin that we're looking for. And when you're looking for your point of origin, that's just it. That's what's so vital to all of this. That is exactly what you're looking for, is your point of origin. It doesn't matter what you're looking for, so long as you're looking. Eventually, you will reach that point where you will be like, I need the truth. Because you're going to need a constant. And if you change the definition of truth to what is constant and never changing, it suddenly gives you this solid, stable thing that is a constant in your life that will never change. Now that is trustworthy because it does not change. And once you realize it doesn't change, once you realize you have this solid, never changing, never evolving, constant structure, you can then go off, do pretty much whatever you need, but you've got this one thing that's constant. Now, the further away you get from the truth, the more things evolve, the faster they evolve. But the more solid you stay with the truth, the constant, it allows you to stabilize. If you're not stable, it is because you're that far away from the truth. The truth stabilizes you without any work, without any effort, because it's doing the work, because it is true. So if you have beliefs that you're constantly having to do manifestations on, constantly having to do mantras on, constantly having, what you are really doing is supplementing and doing the work of truth because you don't have it. That is what I learned at the truth. I learned that when you have a constant, you don't have to supplement a constant. You cannot. It's not possible to supplement truth. It's not possible. So you're going to have to constantly dispose energy. You're going to have to constantly use energy to get yourself in the same position because you're constantly moving. So you're going to have to do constant work to put yourself back here. That's going to spend energy. But if you have the truth, you don't have to do any of that work because the truth will do it for you. All you have to do is know the truth. But if you don't know the truth, you're going to constantly get off point. You're going to constantly just drift further and further away from it because it's not the truth. The truth is magnetic. The truth constantly pulls at you. So if you feel this pull, that means you're not at the truth. When you get to the truth, the pull stops. And how strong the pull is literally how far away from the truth you are. The further away from the truth you are, the stronger that pull is, until eventually you come back to the truth. But a lot of people fight that pull, or they resist the pull, and they get further and further away from it. Some of them feel like they're speeding up and they're heading toward it. And you'll go faster if you study science, ironically. The more you study science, because that is the language of the truth, because that is the language of Mother Nature, because that's what they're doing, is they are literally translating Mother Nature. And you get to a certain point where the truth and Rata and Asha all come together, and you get to that point. And then you can see all lie, because lie is just not the truth. So suddenly you're standing at the truth and you can see all lie. And then there's a ratio, a percentage. You can measure a person's lie in relativity to the truth because you know the truth. When you can see the amount of lying that's out there, what lie really is, you realize it all comes down to the language we use. Everything comes down to the language. And then you just hear the language that people are using, and it's saturated in all the lies. And for a long time, I believed that lie was intended to deceive. And I was wrong. No, it's not. The opposite of truth is lie. It doesn't matter if you're ignorant or not. Just like whether or not you're right about the truth doesn't make it any less truth. A truth is still the truth. The truth has the word "the" in front of it because there's only one. This is actually a known knowledge in writing books. Authors know this. You can have a table, but the table is the one you're sitting at. You can have a truth, which is actually a lie, which is why the truth is the truth. But lie is just anything that isn't the truth. The truth is constant. So the truth is, there is something really fucking up with the Fertile Crescent. Like, there is something really fucking going on over there. Because I've done the research. I pulled up the Fertile Crescent, and I'm looking at her going, wait a minute. First of all, she's referred to as the cradle of society. The cradle of civilization. Now, I know this. I've known this for decades. But when I started to look at how much wisdom pours out of the cradle of civilization, the Fertile Crescent, this is where we discovered and invented everything. It's like wisdom is just pouring out of the Fertile Crescent. It's where we first decided, hey, you know what would be really a good idea? Circles. Circles would be a great idea. Wheels would be fucking fantastic. It's where someone said, you know what would be awesome if we farmed our food. Farming our food would be a great idea. We wouldn't have to forage anymore. Let's farm this shit. You know what would be really awesome? Husbandry. Let's do husbandry. Yeah, that's a great idea. Let's do husbandry. You know what would be awesome? Cats. Let's domesticate the cat. They did this here. And no, it wasn't dogs. I checked. It was cats. Yes, it was cows, pigs, cats. I'm like, wow, they lied to us. It wasn't dogs. Dogs being man's best friend. Oh, that's marketing. They lied. It was cats. It was cats. I'm going, I got to go back to this. I'm blown away. I'm blown away. Let me see if I did not see dogs on this list. I'm going to go back to it because I like to be consistent. So let me just confirm here. It was extraordinary what they did. Pottery. It started here. Everything started here. But there's more to it than that. There's so much more to it than that. Where is, I'll just type in the word cat. My daughter's like right here. She's like, I want to see this. Okay, I'm on the wrong page. Okay, let me go back. Where was that? That's the I want the Fertile Crescent. Oh, I can't. Now, this is all over cats. And it's mind-blowing. Okay, let me pull up another page here. This is important. So the Fertile Crescent. Fertile Crescent. Wiki. Oh, Near Eastern origin. That is what I was looking up, is the Near East origin. Writing, irrigation, glass, agriculture. They figured out glass. Like they reverse engineered it from their intuition. Everything came from this place. But it's more than that. It's absolutely more than that. It is so much more than that. Here it is. Goats, cows, goats, sheep, pig, horse, and cat. No, there's no dog here. There's no dog mentioned here. No, there are no wolves located in the Fertile Crescent. Yes. Yes, it's a lie. There are no wolves in the Middle East, which is where civilization began, which would be illogical if they domesticated the dog first. They domesticated the cat. Ready for this, guys? Which is why the ancient Egyptians worshipped cats. Oh. They did have dogs because they had Anubis, and they did have the Arabic dog. Where did it come from? See, this is where you need to dig to see the bullshit. It's all in the history books. Like if you know how to read history. And there is a point of bias. There's literally like a stage of bias. You have the truth, and then you have the bias, and then you've got all the bullshit that is today. If you remove the bullshit that is today and you look at this part, there's going to be a period of bias. This is where people are still alive who care. This is where people of today alter this section because they want it to be their way. And then there's no one gives a shit about anything prior to that because that is not in their vested interest to prove their point over here. This is true. I cannot emphasize to you enough how much this is true. So everything tampered with between a certain point to this point is bullshit because it reinforces the logic of what they want you to believe at this time period. But they never think to go back to the very beginning to change this part. So if you go back to the very beginning to look at this part, you'll realize it's completely untainted. That is where King Solomon is. That's where Zoroaster is. That's where Pythagoras is. It's untouched. All of it is untouched from any kind of lie. The lies begin in 380 CE. I know this because I've documented it, because I've done all of this research and I'm going, wow, the lies begin at 380 CE. What they did prior to 380 CE was they just wiped it out, but they didn't wipe it out. Science is translating all of this stuff, finding the documentation and surfacing it going, wow, we are finding everything prior to 380. Now we have so much information from 380 because we have found it and deciphered it that now we're getting a different story. So there's two stories in history. There's the purified, true version, which we've actually found from the time period and we've been able to translate it. And then we've got the bullshit liar section. The bullshit liar section starts in 380 CE and it is in the present. But there's two stages of the bullshit liar section. There is the we got to cover our tracks period. So there's the cover our tracks. And then there is the opinion era, which is the I'm going to base all of my belief and logic on somebody else's lies. So you either are following the liars from the cover our track period, or you're going all the way back to the beginning prior to the bullshit era of 380 CE. My data and research, everything in my brain comes back from prior to 380 CE. Now, as a result, because I was taught from Plato, from Pythagoras, from Zoroaster, from Solomon, one of the things that they taught was this is how you find the truth, because it's called Rata. It's the science of truth. So there's two things I noticed here. So you got the cradle of civilization, the cradle of society, and you have the Fertile Crescent. And you've got agriculture, husbandry, farming. You've got all that stuff like popping up. But it didn't stop. After that, you ended up with Solomon's wisdom. Oh, we're not done yet. So you've got Solomon's wisdom that came out of that space. Now, that coincides with all of these super geniuses at the Fertile Crescent coming up with glass, pottery. They went from grunting at each other to let's create the written word. And I'm going, and I know it did not happen overnight. I know that, but it happened. I really like my idea of we're going to write a book. You're like that's they did this. This is where mathematics was born. And I'm going, what the fuck is going on? And then in 1000 CE, I see, boom, Solomon's wisdom. I have studied the fuck out of Solomon. Oh, he fascinated me. He has fascinated me always. And I'm sitting here studying his temple, which was not a place of worship. Worship meant to learn. Worship means to learn. A temple was a school, a university. It was the first university. And I'm going, dude, he created a university in 1000 BCE. Dude. And the very first school, the very first education that was ever, the concept of passing on knowledge from point A to point B came from Solomon. Hey, I've got an idea. Let's pass this information on to people on purpose. And it was breathtaking what they did. And then from then they got Asha, which is just wisdom. And they realized, oh, we need to pursue truth. It's just the pursuit of truth. And these three, like Solomon started it. And from Solomon, you got Zoroaster, the whole Zoroaster, which then birthed the Vedic, which then branched out. And then from this, boom, everything else. So all of us points back to the Fertile Crescent and the cradle of civilization. So now my brain is zoning in on this space. Now, when you know how to look, you'll notice something. You'll notice things like magi. That word really is interesting to me. So I spend a lot of time homing around magi, which were the Zoroasters, which is what gives us the word magic. So now I'm going, what did they define as magic? Well, I studied it, so I know what they call magic. And taking what I know from them and looking at the full spectrum, it goes, magic is the science that is beyond science. That's the best way to explain it. Magic is the science that is beyond science. The problem is it was strategically and deliberately on purpose removed from our culture in 380 CE. But we had magi. We had wizards, which actually is the word for philosopher and sage. After you were a wizard, you became a magi because you could do magic. But they called it magic because they lacked the science. And when you study in this realm, you find the science again. You study so much science and you walk into a world of so much science that you find the other side of science and you go, oh, it's still science, but boy, is it fucking advanced. And it's going, wow, yeah, no wonder. Okay, yeah, I can understand. The problem is you have to integrate it all. It's like it is the next science after biology. The next science after biology is this. It's the next science. And it all came out of the Fertile Crescent. And when you follow the timeline, when you follow the mathematical projection forecasting of seeing where everyone is at point A and where it's going, it's this beautiful, beautiful, like, it's breathtaking. And when I discovered Solomon's wisdom, Zoroaster, and Rata, when I discovered all the emphasis on karma and dharma and how much we have forgotten the parent, I know from the science and the math what happens when you remove the catalyst and the parent. The whole thing unravels. That's logic. So now we've got a whole lot of people pursuing something with an incorrect or a misplaced foundation. And you have to put the parent back. You have to put the point of origin back, which is the foundation for all of this. You have taken out the foundation of what you believe. And as a result, people are pointing the wrong way. They're wandering further and further away. They're all over the place. Now people have no idea what the truth even is anymore, or even how to recognize it. And they don't even know what the truth is for. That's really a big part of it, is people don't even know what the truth is for. And I watched ScoobyNatural last night, and they're walking through this street. Jack is. And he can hear all the lying, and he screams, "Stop lying." And everybody stops lying in the entire world ever. You see a day without lying. And in this one office, everyone breaks down. You see a girl laying on the floor crying and screaming, "I just want to be loved." You see people fighting. And what I saw when I watched the episode was, oh, wow, everyone's ethical IQ is showing. That's all it was. Lies hide your ethical IQ. That is what lies do. Lies hide your ethical IQ. Except I'm standing at the point of truth. So they don't work on me. So I can see everybody's ethical IQ. And when I saw everybody's ethical IQ, it made me really sad. Because it told me how far away from the truth you are. Because when you have a fully mature ethical IQ, you are standing at the point of truth. And your ethical IQ tells you where you are in relativity to the truth. Because the truth is at 36 ethical IQ. And I'm seeing people who are at the second ethical IQ, who are at the third ethical IQ, who are at the fourth ethical IQ, trying to tell me that they are at the 36th level IQ. But when you're standing at the 46th ethical IQ, you can tell the difference between a second, a third, and a fourth ethical IQ. And you just go, no, absolutely not. And then the people who are at the second, third, and fourth ethical IQ get mad because you didn't lie. Because they're more concerned about their ego and their pride and their arrogance. One day I will figure out what pride is. I'm very close. I can feel it. I'm like, I'm going to figure out what pride is, because pride is something different, huh? No. Because when you Google it, it just, let me do the etymology. That's what I just said. Thank you. I'm sorry. I should have let you talk. I'm sorry. Prude. Old English. No, it won't work. It won't work, because this was invented. The word pride was invented in the 1600s, which means it was, oh God, this is going to be difficult. It was invented by, crap. three types. There's no three types. See, that right there means it's a bullshit. Proud is, it's that feeling when you look at your child and they've grown. It's weird because we pursue it from our parents. We want pride from our parents. It's acknowledgement that you're flourishing. Like are you proud of me? We ask our parents for this all the time, but do we even know what it is? Are you proud of me? And then we say, well, pride cometh before a fall. That's arrogance. See how stupid it is? We pursue pride from our parents, but pride cometh before a fall, and it's arrogance. We shouldn't touch that. You see how stupid this is? How can one word mean something so totally different? It's because you don't have the truth. That is a consequence of not having the truth. When you don't have the truth, you lose all meaning of words. Words start to not make any sense because they're all out of order now and they have the wrong definitions attached to them because somebody stopped studying linguistics somewhere. And when you have the truth, you start to go back to the original word and you start to pull the etymology back. You have to go back to the purified word meaning. And when you start defining everything based off of the etymology, it restores the meaning of the word and truth, because truth is the etymological meaning of the word. That's the truth. Now, the etymological definition of the word starts to show you exactly how far away from the truth we've gotten. We've evolved away from truth. And that's really it. We have evolved away from truth. When you speak truth, when you speak logic and it makes sense, it provides such relief that it just fixes everything. It really does. And it's extraordinary how powerful it is. And I was thinking about love. A soul is pure truth. That is what I learned yesterday. That a soul is just pure truth. And when you tell a lie or you live a lie, your soul shrinks until it becomes empty or nothing. And the more you lie, the more your soul shrivels into nothing. And some of us have told so many lies or are so far away from the truth that our soul is empty and we feel this vast hole in it. And that's an absence of truth. And the more you tell the truth, the more full you feel. So I became addicted real fast to telling the truth. And the more I told the truth, the more I felt my soul fill up. The more I felt the emptiness go away. The more I felt the hole inside of me just fill up. And every time I feel bad, I tell the truth and I feel fucking fantastic afterward. And then I feel this massive surge of just power. And it's just pure truth. That's when I realized, oh, this is Rata. This is what it is to be an Ashavana. And I was thinking about marriage, and it's just this realization that you don't want it to end. But it's also this, on this and on you, I will never quit. That's all it is. On this and on you, I will never quit. And then I realized that It's the desire to nourish, to grow. It's also being nourished to grow. And then after that, it was this realization that you could spend your entire life cheering and encouraging and empowering someone. That has nothing to do with sex or romance. It is beautiful, but it has nothing to do with sex or romance. And it is this other part. It is the being so vulnerable with someone that you can just bare your soul, speak all your truth. And it's being in truth with someone. And then I realized that it's a purging of all lie, that we all require one person that we can just completely strip all of ourself away and say, this is who I am. This is who I am. This is all of my truth. And when you do that with someone, it's literally them giving you a psychologically safe place to reveal your full vulnerability, which is your truth. Truth is vulnerability. And more and more, I saw this going over itself, where the 12 ethics just kept wrapping around each other over and over again. And it was this beautiful thing of the order of operations. And it all begins with truth. Truth is the very first order of operation. It's the catalyst. But if you're not even aligned to the catalyst, the whole thing is going to unravel. And it is. It's disintegrating. And I guess you would say this was my journey to the truth. And when I got there, I found out how wrong everything is. And the more you tell your truth to someone, the confession process, and the more they still receive you afterward, that bonds you. Oh, it bonds you. That is bonding. And it is the exchange and the trade of giving your vulnerability and your truth. And then when somebody takes it and listens to it, they've received you and they've accepted you. And then when they gift it back to you and you receive them, it's giving each other a psychologically safe place. And then you cry together and you mend together. And that is the healing and the restoration and the bonding process. Knowing that the two of you have received and that it's safe within each other, because you're able to purge all of your crimes, all of your sins, all of your lies, so that you are clean of all of your lies. You don't have to do it to the whole world. You just have to do it with one person. And the problem we run into with a priest is the priest only receives, he never gives back. So there's no bond formed. And it's a keeper. It's literally your truth keeper. I'm going to use that word. It's a truth keeper. You must have a truth keeper, because if you don't, those lies will just eat away at you. It's best to tell a priest than to keep it inside. But it's a truth keeper. When actions and words are said that are toxic, they infect the soul, your truth. And that twists and challenges things unnaturally. And that is all pain in the world. You hurt because you have lie in you, because your soul is pure truth. And the more lie you say, the more that contradicts your soul of pure truth. But when you say the true name, when you speak the truth, it corrects the error and it fixes it, because all we can feel is logic and lie. We all feel illogic. We all feel lie. And when we purge it, we remove it, because we have restored the truth. So we have to speak truth to someone to relieve the pain. We all had spouses once, but over the last 60 years, we all stopped talking. to always be someone who receives you, loves you, and accepts you in truth. This is marriage. It is the purest form of love and truth. And then reciprocity is so present. It's so strong. It's ingrained into the human psyche. Whatever we need to confess, the partner is the person who receives it, accepts you, and loves you anyway. This is belonging. This is bonding. This is love. I'm going to say again, it has nothing to do with sex or romance. It has to do with just pure love. This is unconditional love. Unconditional love follows true love. True love, as in truth love. Truth love. Try that on for size. Truth love. And that is the real love we are all looking for, is truth love, which is the only kind of love you really can trust, which is why it's called TRU, just like truth, TRU. Because truth love is unconditional love. Because it's loving no matter what you say, no matter what you've done. It's pure forgiveness. It's just pure forgiveness. Forgiveness is acceptance. And the more you tell your truth, the truth, the more people look at your vulnerability and they see your soul. And that is literally what heals you. Being loved is being understood. It's also wanting to be understood. And that is all it is. Yeah, of course, sweetheart. I'm reading my notes from last night. I hypothesize that jealousy is actually a violation of unconditional love. I think that is truly what it is why aren't you talking to me? Why aren't you telling me the truth? And that's really what jealousy is it's a violation of truth. It is a violation of truth. And jealousy comes in when we detect truth being violated by somebody who's committed to always being honest with us. But usually the concept of sex or affairs completely muddles this space. And people they can't maneuver it, which is why polyamorous people feel jealousy. It's not about the sex or the romance. It's about the violation of truth. It's about being honest. Because of the core dishonesty. When you are fulfilled, you have enough. The question is, why aren't you feeling like you have enough? Well, it's because you aren't fulfilled. So the question is, why aren't you fulfilled? But the real question is, why are you pursuing fulfillment in sex? Why do you think fulfillment is in sex? If you're looking for fulfillment, then where are you looking? Fulfillment is only in Rata, which is truth, and Asha. Fulfillment is only ever in truth. Which means if you are pursuing others, you are not fulfilled. And you're lying to yourself. And a truth partner will know. So the truth partner will detect through jealousy that you are not being honest with yourself. And instead of talking about why you're not fulfilled, which is your relationship with truth, you will instead run off with another lover, regardless of whether or not you're monogamous or polyamorous. But it's completely ignoring the fact that you are not fulfilled. Why? The only time a person is not fulfilled is when they lack truth, which is why a person feels jealous, is because a truth partner can feel that. The problem is the person who is not fulfilled gaslights the truth seer. That's what I am. It's a bitch. And as a result, the person who does not feel fulfilled, the liar, will lash out at the truth seer who feels jealousy, which is really a violation of the truth. And they will gaslight the truth seer and say, you're jealous. That's when everything disintegrates, because the person who is not fulfilled has broken it all down instead of talking about it. Now, some people will talk about it. Some polyamorous couples will talk about it. And in the talking about it, it resolves the situation temporarily. Sometimes it comes back. And it's moments like this where we realize we were not being honest. And when you form a truth bond with someone, and that's really what this is, it's truth bonding. You can't lie to somebody you've truth bonded with. You can't. It is so deeply integrated into you that you can't. And it's I have been looking for these answers all of my life. This is romance. No, I hate that word. Grecian. It's Grecian. There's nothing that, how do I explain this? This is what I found at Rata. This is the stuff that I discovered at Rata on my pilgrimage to the truth. And I came back from it, and there was no one to greet me after my journey. And that was lonely, but it wasn't lonely because I was sad for myself. It was Ubuntu. I was sad that no one else is experiencing this. I was sad for you. And it makes me sad that I've discovered this most beautiful thing. And when I talk to people about it, and I'm going, I'm the only one here, which means I'm the only one who has found Rata. And when I talk to other people, I get know-it-alls, just know-it-alls. And I'm going, if you knew it all, then you would be here. But you're not. And that's it right there. That is all of it. You're a know-it-all because you're here. And if you're not an actual know-it-all, you're in vain. That's vanity, empty. To have a name that has nothing behind it. You have to, some words were composed I understand now. I understand the confusion. I understand. I understand. Some words were invented from the abstract. And if you don't speak the abstract, you're not going to understand the words. Like vanity. Vanity is an abstract word, which means you're going to need someone from the abstract to translate it. Forgiveness is an abstract word. This is starting to make so much sense. I couldn't understand why you guys couldn't understand the words. And I went, well, they're not at the ethical perspective yet. They're not going to understand the word until they arrive at the ethical perspective. Yes, but why can't they grasp it? Because they're not at the ethical perspective. Okay, all right, we're going to go back to that. What about vanity? Vanity is something you discovered here in the 44th ethical perspective. So what does this mean? It means that the words were composed out of the abstract, which means somebody who is not from the abstract is not going to understand these words. Those are abstractic language. Forgiveness is an abstract language. Vanity is an abstract language. You are picking up words from a language you have not studied. Truth is an abstract word. Love is an abstract word. No wonder why you guys don't know these words. You don't speak abstractic. You have to be at the 36th level of comprehension to understand these words. I am discovering them, rediscovering them at the 46th ethic. And I'm going, wow, all right, I'm understanding this. Now it's making sense. I discovered apology, which is actually Greek for to defend. An apology is actually a defense in an argument, which is why the word logic is in the word apology. I went, wow, that's a really deep word. Apology actually means a defense in an argument. You should never command anyone to apologize. What you're really saying is defend yourself. I don't want your excuses. Excuse means reason. This is language. This is literally the language of logic. And it was invented in the abstract. And then the material people came along and they pulled the words and now you're misusing them. And I'm going, that's not even your language. That is not your language. So now you're misusing words and you don't even know what they are. For instance, excuse and excuse. And people don't know what these words means. Excuse means reason. And excuse means to understand and accept. Which is why you are excused, because I understand and I accept. It's submission. To be excused is basically for the person doing the damnation to submit to the argument, submit to the apology. So the way it goes is, you offend me, I then command your reason, excuse. You give me your apology, which is your defense, and then I submit to your defense and I excuse you because I've received it. That is actually the process of a logical conversation. That is actually formal argument and debate. The whole language is formal argument and debate. What is your excuse? This is my apology. All right, I submit. I accept your excuse and I submit. I have accepted your apology. That is what it is. To accept your apology is actually to submit and change your opinion. That is what accepting an apology means. So if someone accepts your apology, it means they agree with you. If someone does not accept your apology, it means they stand against you. It does not mean that you have consented to the offender. It means the offender has agreed to you. You see how abusers have turned this around to weaponize logic against you. The words excuse, apologize, those belong to logicians. And when you study logic, you get them back and you go, what the fuck are you guys doing with my words? These are logician words. And you guys haven't studied logic, so you guys are abusing the fuck out of these words. Specifically, you were taught by abusers who weaponized logic. Now you're forced to apologize. And you were taught that apology means I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. I'll obey, I'll obey, I'll obey. That's not at all what it means. They've weaponized logic against you, which is why you always apologize. I'm sorry means I have made a mistake and I have learned the lesson. But you have to first admit that you have made a mistake. But most people are just on autopilot to make mistakes. Let me tell you something. You are healed when you no longer apologize. How often do you apologize? Because that's a great metric to determine, oh, I need to write these down, like ways to determine. I have a few of them. Ways to measure your healing. 1, you never say sorry. You don't hurt people. You never say sorry and you don't hurt people. So if you are apologizing and you actually didn't hurt someone, like, what are you doing? The second trait is ways to measure your healing is you spend no energy being stable or solid. You can see lies and tell truth from lie. Always. The pull towards something is gone. There is no more pull because you're at Rata. There you go. So ways to measure your distance from Rata. Truth. You never say sorry. You don't hurt people. You spend no energy being stable or solid. You can see, no energy. No need for self-care. None. None. You don't need self-care. You can see lies and tell truth from lie always. The pull towards something is gone. There is no pull toward anything. It's gone. You are at truth. You defend. You speak you speak truth. The word I'm looking for. You speak truth without any hesitation. You do not hermit or isolate yourself. There you go. So that's down in the comments. Those are 6, not comments, that's in the description of the video. That is in the description of the video. I'm trying to learn how to speak proper tech language. It's very hard for me. It's in the description of the video. Thank you, Lizzie. My daughter is encouraging me. Thank you. It's in the description of the video. And that is, so there's 6 points there to show you where you are in relativity to your healing or truth. And vanity is emptiness. The word consumer really needs to be banned from all use. Like, stop using it. It's literally got the word consumption in it. It is part of the word consumption. Consume. Like, it's literally the eating away of someone. And we call people consumers. Like, okay, let me explain this to you. Consumer is narcissism. Those are takers. Those are people who consume without resource generating. You're either disintegrating or you're integrating. Everything is in integration or disintegration. Everything is on a spectrum of integration and disintegration. That is it right here. This is it. This is it. You are either integrating or disintegrating. You are facing the wrong way or you are facing the right way. You are going toward, you are integrating, or you are integrated. The goal of all of us is to be integrated. I am having a really hard time trying to communicate precisely what it is I need to say, because when I speak plainly, I know I'm not understood. Integration is when wholes come together to create greater wholes. And we're not taught how to do integrated mathematics. It's not even heard of. I found it at Rata. I found integration mathematics. And when I found integration mathematics, by the way, integration mathematics is how magic works. It is the core of magical knowledge, is integrated mathematics. It is when you get a hole in a hole and you integrate them, and then you get a greater whole. And you're studying components without realizing you're only studying a component. When you study music, you are studying a component of something greater. When you study art, you are studying a component of something greater. When you study just spiritualism, you are studying a component of something greater. The problem is you've got a lot of people with opinion cramming data and information into all of these strands because of the period of, what did I call it? It's that era of cover our tracks. So you've got all these people tampering with all the data to cover their tracks. And now all of your education is coming from the covering your tracks era. You've got to go before 380 CE. Now, that does not mean disregard all events after 380. It does mean the truth, the core knowledge, is untainted before 380 CE, which means you have to go back to the core knowledge of 380, which means anything that was composed after 380 was not based off of the core defined truth that was found at Rata with Asha by Solomon. The man was renowned for nothing but his wisdom. He did much with that wisdom. He invented an entire school of it. Worship means to learn. Celebration is learning. It's the same thing. You celebrate the self when you learn about the self. I'm trying to figure out the self and relativity to truth. Now that I'm here, this is something I've been diving deep into, is what exactly are we in relative to truth? And where your education has you is at point A. Other people have managed to get as far as point D. And then other people have gotten as far as point E. Those are your philosophers. I am at point Z. And I really hate talking about stuff from point E all the way to point Q. I love Q. Q is great. I cover things from Q to Z. Yes, QRSTUVWXYZ. That is my space, is Q to Z. But there's no one who is between E and Q. This is where there's a massive educational gap between E and Q. And I'm going, okay, I've got people at A. No, that's not going to work. I get people at D. I got people at E. And the people at E are, and this is where I'm just stuck. And all I can really talk now about is Q to Z. That's all I can talk about now. It's all I can reflect on. It's all I can think on. And I'm going, how am I going to tell Q and Z people, or how am I going to talk to people between A and Q when there are no people between E and Q? And I would love to have a conversation, just a conversation with someone between Q and Z. I want to talk about things like, what do you think they were studying when the Magi were forming all the knowledge that they formed when they recognized that there was a star in the sky and it was translating and telling them this person's going to be born at this particular point and he's going to go on to do these things. I mean, I know this because I translated it myself and I went, oh, they just literally translated the universal clock. But you need to know about the universal clock. And I'm looking at the universal clock and I'm translating it and I'm going, okay, so the universal clock tells me that everything's going to go this way. Now, I can't tell when, which is why it took them 2 years to get there, is because it's the when part that's always complicated. Because milestones are what, it's really annoying. Because time is different here. The milestones are the markers. The events are the markers, never the when. There is no when. It doesn't exist. When is which perspective you are in. So, and it did not take them 2 years to journey from the desert to them. They had to keep translating these stars. They had to keep reading and updating the universal clock. They were actually apprentices, or they were, it wouldn't surprise me if they were actually students, these 3 magi, translating the world, the universal clock, so they could identify and locate where the child would be. It should not have taken them 2 years. It should have taken them, well, it took me a year to find my space. It took me 3 months to find my partner. So 1 year, 3 months to find my partner. 1 year to realize I needed to be in New York, and I was resisting that. And then once I realized that it wasn't, that it was, 3 months. It was 3 months. And there it is. Just a moment. Lizzie, that is gorgeous. Holy crap, that is so much nicer than the block you guys have out in the middle of the wilderness that you guys play in. This is Minecraft, right? Yeah, she built this beautiful house. Like, it's a huge log cabin with this overview. It's so beautiful. My daughter is really skilled at building architecture. And she'll go on to Sims and she'll build these elaborate houses. But my son and her play on Minecraft, and they have this block. It's the ugliest blue block. And they live inside of it. Your blue block that you guys live in called your house? Yeah, that big square or rectangle that you and Daniel live in. It's where your other house is. Where's that blue house that you guys live in? It's made out of obsidian, you said?
Oh my God.
Is that your fort? Oh, it's their fort. I thought it was your house.
That's not a house.
Good. I thought it was your house.
It's meant to be ugly.
It's meant to be ugly. Great. I'm so glad. So I'm looking, I didn't know you could actually build nice houses on Minecraft until now. I'm looking at it going, wow, this thing is advanced. It looks like a log cabin mansion.
That's what I'm going for.
She's like, that's what I'm going for. She built a log cabin mansion. And I'm like, wow, for a minute, it's so good. I thought she was on Sims. That's how good her house is I thought she was on Sims. And I'm like, so I just learned a whole nother level of Minecraft. So did not know Minecraft could do that. So I'm going, I don't want to dumb it down because that's the problem. You can't dumb this shit down. As soon as you dumb it down, you make the people dumber. When you dumb it down, you make the people dumber. So you can't dumb it down. You have to set the standard so they will rise up to you. Oh, I don't understand this. That's the metric to go, oh, that's right. That's it right there. When people dumbed down education, they destroyed the metric. You are supposed to have it hard. You're supposed to struggle. It's to tell you where you need to be. The problem is the teachers had the time restraints on you, telling you, you got to get there at a certain point. The problem is, this is it right here, is they did not give you the complete foundation of your education. You are missing the foundation of your education because it wasn't built for you in the right order of operations. That's what I've been trying to tell you, is when I reverse engineered wisdom in education, I found out that your education, all education, was not done in the right order of operations, and it lacks a foundation. There is no foundation to your educational system, and it has more gaps than I can explain. It is also contaminated with lies, so there's contradictions now. It doesn't make sense. In addition to that, it's also done out of order. So you're not learning in the right order. You have no foundation to your learning. There are significant gaps, and it's filled with lie and contradiction. So that by the time you get whatever education you're going to get, it's not going to be complete because there's no foundation, there's significant gaps, it's lie and contradiction, and it's out of order. So now, whatever degree you have was built on a foundation of nonsense, sand, and disorder. So 100% of all education in the world today is built on nonsense, sand, and disorder. You don't have a learning disability. Your education is fucking shit. Because people you trusted lied to you. To have a foundation in education, you have to know where education came from, what it is, why we do it, what your goal is with it. But you were 5 when you started. You should have been 2 when you started. You actually did start when you were 2, but that was also taken away from you. So the core thing that actually started you on the right track for education was taken away from you. That was the foundation. And the gap I am referring to is from arithmetic up to math. There is literally 4 subjects between arithmetic and math. Math is not an abbreviation of arithmetic. Arithmetic and mathematics are not the same thing. Arithmetic and mathematics are not the same thing. They're not. And as a result, you guys learned arithmetic. You were told it was math when it wasn't math. And then you had theater and stage taken away from you. You had poetry taken away from you. You had linguistics taken away from you. You had logic taken away from you. And then you had mathematics. Mathematics is algebra. You were not given algebra when you were 5, when you were 10, when you were told that 1 + 1 = 2, which is a lie. Calculus proves that. And so does integrated mathematics. 1 + 1 does not equal 2. That is a lie they give you that they correct when you get to calculus. Calculus is when you get truth. Calculus is when you get the truth. That's how much they're lying to you. Why are they giving you lies? Why are they teaching you incorrect math between arithmetic and mathematics? Why? This is how damaged your education is. You have damaged education. The problem is, this is your elementary education. This is everything from 2nd grade and on, which means everything after the 2nd grade is garbage because it's done out of order. At 2nd grade, you should have gotten theater and stage and poetry only. And then you should have gotten linguistics, etymology. But you didn't because they broke your education. So everybody who is any education after the 1st grade is moot. It's out of the wrong order. It's nonsense. It has gaps in it. It's got lie and contradiction. And calculus proves this. When people get to calculus and they go, wait a minute, every person I've spoken to about calculus, they go through this. You lied to me. Every purpose in calculus goes through this grieving stage. You lied to me. They get to calculus and they go, this makes so much more sense. 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2. You lied to me. Because every calculus student knows how much they struggled because they lied. Now you've got a trust problem. Oh, how do I know you're not telling me the truth now? Logic would have fixed that. That's why they don't teach it to you. You have a broken education. Everything after the second grade is garbage. All of it. All of it. It's going to be garbage until you fill in the blanks and you upgrade it, until you plug in what you've missed. That is all triadic healing is it plugs in the gap, it puts it in the right order, and it puts it in the right category for you. It fills in the blank of what you've missed. That way, the information you do have is going to sort and strip. It's going to go in what is lie, and it's going to cover what is truth. So all the true knowledge is going to stay. You're going to see how much you were lied to. Economics is all wrong, which is why the economy is failing, is because it's all a lie. What you are really taught is scarcity mindset and psychology to keep you poor. It's not economics at all. That's the first subject you're going to immediately realize the deeper you get into this. I'm going to warn you where it's going to sort, because a lot of people start to resist it. Now, once you submit to the lesson, this is all gone. There is no resistance. You completely go, okay, assume everything you've been taught is a lie, because most of it is. If your education was complete and proper, math would never have been hard. You never would have gotten to calculus and realized, oh my God, they lied. You would have known that arithmetic and mathematics are two completely different sciences. Completely different sciences. Look them up. Everything I am saying is 100% searchable, proven, and true. The difference is I know the right order of operations. Because I have the right order of operations, I was able to figure out a different interpretation. The translation is what is revealed. The interpretation changes. Translation and interpretation are the problem. This is referred to as a bridge language. A bridge language is a language that connects, it's human circuitry, and it connects point A to point B, exactly like a transmitter, because it is transmitting knowledge and receiving it as a receiver. So you have a transmitter and a receiver, creating a bridge for a circuit to occur. The circuit itself is the bridge. The bridge is out. The bridge has been out for decades, for centuries. There's been no transmitter. So as a result, you guys are getting data and you don't even know the category in which you're getting it. So the first thing is there's a lot of lies and there is some truth. You're going to need to sort this out. Now, your logic will automatically do this once you upload a certain thing. It's logic, and logic doesn't have to be uploaded into your system. It's already there. It just needs to be turned on. That's what Sophie's World does. Sophie's World turns it on. You read Sophie's World by Jostein Gaarner, and it will turn on the logic in your brain. So you don't have to do anything. It will automatically do it. Don't resist it. Allow your brain to sort it. But you've got to understand and know that your education was tampered with after the second grade. Remember how different kindergarten and first grade were, and then you get to second grade and it's completely different? Why did they rewrite the system after the second grade? Why was kindergarten and first grade written like this, but not the second grade? Do you really think the human brain is so different between first grade and second grade that it's that drastic? What happened? To see this kind of a change or adjustment, this drastic of a change between kindergarten, first grade, and then second grade is what we refer to as, well, a massive anomaly in science. It's huge. That is a huge red flag of what the fuck is going on at the second grade. That is when appropriation begins. Second grade is when appropriation begins, and it's when your education stops being about you. Appropriation in the second grade is all about you becoming a slave of society. That's all it's about. And as a result, everything from second grade and on is about consumption, obedience, and slavery. So they embedded subliminal messaging inside your educational system at the second grade. That is what they did. They integrated subliminal messaging right inside your educational system at the 2nd grade, because that's how you brainwash a society. Now, a lot of people know this. A lot of people have figured this out. I'm not talking about what they've done to you. We already have a solution. I went back to Solomon, Zoroaster, Pythagoras, Plato, and I restored the actual education, the one that kindergarten and 1st grade was based off of, the one that 1-year-old, 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, and 5-year-olds based all of their education and learning from. That is how pure this is. It is referred to as the pursuit of Rata. The pursuit of Rata, I'm going to say Rata because it's pretty. The pursuit of Rata is the pursuit of truth. It is the point of comprehension. In order to get there, you must prioritize, value, and follow Asha, which is wisdom. Wisdom leads you to truth. Wisdom is only obtained through logic and the ethics. Nothing else. Logic and the ethics are the only things that will get you to Asha, wisdom, which will lead you to the truth. Now, when you get to truth, the whole process is being in love, which is, if you were to translate that into German, it translates to believe. When you translate the words being in love into German, it translates into the word believe. So when you are believing, you are actually on the journey of logic and ethics to Asha, which is wisdom, to truth. You have arrived at Rata when you are at the point of conception, the point of comprehension, which is 36 levels of consciousness in. The 12 ethics has to be repeated 3 times, and that is the entire journey. To transfer yourself from one perspective to the next, there are trials at every stage. The 12 trials of Hercules is what these originally started as. The pilgrimage came later. After you passed the 12 stages of Hercules, you began your pilgrimage. After the pilgrimage, you begin your refinement. This is when you become a wizard or a philosopher or a sage. Then you arrive at Rata. I want to say it's apprentice wizardship at refinement. And then you become Rata. At Rata, you continue your study, and from there, you become a magi. So you have the 12 trials of Hercules, the pilgrimage, the wizarding apprentice, Rata, the point of comprehension and pure truth, and then magi. To try and study magic prior to truth, you'll get black magic, which is just illogic and contaminated. Full Metal Alchemist. Full Metal Alchemist. Full Metal Alchemist, he was at Rata after his accident. The alchemist, Edward, he was a magi. He was a magi. That is what you get after Rata. There you go. That's what it looks like. The man who was dabbling in alchemy and making mutations, he was not at Rata. He was all the way back prior to the pilgrimage. Magic is prematurely practiced prior to the 12 ethics. Prior to the 12 ethics. Anyone who begins this trial of Asha, the journey of Asha, when you get to the 12 ethics, you start to realize you have no business touching this stuff until you've completed the journey. The journey of Asha is the trial of worth for magic. That's it right there. And if you do not complete the journey first, if you do not complete the pilgrimage, you are not worthy. So the journey is actually a test of worth. That's really what it is. It is a test of worth. It is to assess whether or not you are worthy to have Rata, to have magic. Only those who stand at Rata are valuable enough, worthy enough. Let's say worthy. Do you remember how the word worthy used to mean literally? Let's go back to the original word, worthy. It's an abstract word. Worthy means honorable. Worthy means honorable. Worthy means honorable. I don't do well with illogic. I'm incompatible with it, so that when I feel something that doesn't make sense, it makes me very aggressive and angry. I really hate this about myself. I am currently trying to learn how to not be so aggressive when I am around illogic or something that doesn't make sense. I have not yet learned how to do this. It is an advanced discipline. Because for me, when I feel illogic, it is a direct attack on my rata, which is my everything. Like, you don't touch the rata. You don't touch the rata. And I don't have to defend the rata. It's the rata. But I also, what is this? Let's analyze it. Lizzie, it is very humid for me. Are you comfortable?
Yeah.
You're comfortable. Okay. So this is me putting in my 2 cents. Okay. I am not comfortable. It is too humid for me. So when you reach your point of discomfort, could you close the window and turn on the AC? When you are ready. Because I'm at my peak. Yeah, I'm live. It's okay. But just don't sacrifice for me. Just if you are. So thank you. You didn't have to do it. Like I said, I could not. I know you're hungry. You mime it. Go eat. You have the ability to feed yourself. Thank you. Yes, I have a jar. My jar. My daughter painted this for me. My jar is for, and it's idea jar. It's an idea jar. It's for me to start throwing stuff in here when I have ideas, because I get ideas that I want to talk about, but then I like, no, let's just throw them in the jar. So I don't know how to not get angry, hostile, and seething when something is illogical. I don't know how to do that yet. I'm still working on it. I need a logical clause that I can drop in there so I can like barrier it up. I need a barrier. That's what I need. I need a logical or lie barrier. This is new. This is new. An illogical or lie barrier. That's interesting. See, I don't need people to tell me what they think. I can just reverse engineer it with logic and figure out the truth for myself. I know how to find the truth for myself. I never ever need to discuss it with somebody, ever. That is a dependence that people have on each other, where they don't know how to do logic without other people. It's quite interesting. I've been observing it a lot, and it astounds me how people are so codependent on doing logic with other people. It blows my mind away. I should probably talk about this. There is a codependence for logic where they can't do logic alone. They have no idea how to do logic alone. So in order for them to form opinions, well, ideas, truth, they have to get them from other people, or they have to discuss them with other people. Or perhaps they're looking to be understood. I'm not quite sure what's going on. You have to first understand before you can be understood. And the journey of understanding is part A. The journey of being understood is part B. You cannot put these out of order. You must understand before you can be understood. That way we all arrive at the point of truth, so we all will then be understood. So the destination is understanding. The destination is truth, which is rata. Rata. So the goal is I'm going to understand, I'm going to understand, I'm going to understand. Oh, I'm at the truth. I understand. Now I can be understood. This is the journey. And you're looking to understand while you are moving toward the truth. You are literally weaving your own understanding. The problem is many people are weaving in the wrong direction. Many people are weaving and they're getting further and further away from truth because they've woven too much. And then they stop understanding. They literally stop understanding at that point. And then they just, okay, this is where I'm at. And then they settle because they think it's over. And I'm going, you're only at the 6th ethic. Some of you are only at the 2nd ethic. You made it 1 ethic. And I'm going, you have no idea how to transfer between the ethics, do you? You have no idea how to integrate an ethic into you. It's a process. It's a formula. And I got people telling me, well, just let them sink. Well, that's the entire world. It's literally the entire world. I literally have about 5 people who are facing the truth and they're actually heading down the right path, who are actually doing the work. The work is weaving logical code to understand it without bias. That's the work. It's weaving logical code without bias. And it's studying more logic so that they can get them. And that's just it. Logic is literally the only path. It's you weaving your own logical code. But without logical code, you can't build logical code. So as a result, you guys are not building logical code properly. It's sad. And I just don't know how else to say. You are disintegrating because you know so little about logical code, which is the science and art of integrating and disintegrating. Logic is the science, the art, the everything of integrating and disintegrating. And if you do not know what you are doing, you will be disintegrating without knowing it. So every time you pick up a false belief, you're disintegrating. Every time you pick up a misinformation or an incorrect fact, every time you form an opinion, you're disintegrating, which pulls you further and further away from the truth. So it's now a question of what is your priority? Where are you trying to go? Are you trying to get to truth, which is Rata? And I'll say again, every religion started with this concept, but all religions got away from this concept. The subgenres in the second generations became the focal point, like karma. And the whole point was missed because karma was put at the foundation as the archetype. Karma is not the archetype. Karma is a tool. Dharma is also required. But again, they're the archetype. There's second generation, which is why there's 2. The first generation is 1, which is truth. So truth is 1, karma, dharma is 2, and then there will be 3. This is disintegration. But everyone's only on one or the other. Well, that's because we're all stuck at the second ethical perspective. We are all stuck on the second generation of either or, binary, because we're 2. But you're supposed to integrate it into the 1. The 1 is truth. It's truth. But with everybody going, well, I've got the truth. Well, I've got the truth. Well, wait a minute. In science and in mathematics, we know that if there is contradiction, then no, it can't be. So now let's compare everybody's notes. Let's put everybody's books down by everybody else's books, and let's look at all the religions. When you look at all the religions, you're going to pull out common denominators. When you pull out common denominators, you're going to notice which parts are actually consistent. If you look at the Judaism religion, the Christian religion, and the Islam religion, and look at them all lined up, which points match? Because the points that match are the points that are true. I'll tell you the one common denominator. King Solomon. You all got King Solomon correct because King Solomon was right. You all got King Solomon correct. You all got the story right. 100% pure, correct story. I checked. It's the only story you all got right. King Solomon. The reason why you all got it right is because that's the true story. Everything else was made up. King Solomon had the truth. He had the science of truth. You need to study King Solomon. And his religion is ancient Zoroastrian, which is what none of you are studying. Ancient Zoroastrian is actually his religion. And when you look at his religion and you trace it to philosophy pre 380, now that's about as close to it as you've got. So the philosophy prior to 380 CE is actually King Solomon's religion. Pythagoras is a follower of King Solomon. Google it. Zarathustra and Zoroaster was a follower of Solomon. Euclid, Plutarch, and Plato. Christ studied Solomon. Christ studied Zoroaster and Pythagoras from King Solomon. Christ studied King Solomon directly, which is why Christ was so close to the truth, because he had it, because he learned it from King Solomon's predecessors, from his religion. Christ actually studied, which is why Christ was a philosopher, which is why Christ had disciples, because they were discipulus, which is the philosophical word for follower of philosophy. He had 12 of them, one for every ethic, because Christ studied from King Solomon. The Vedic and Hinduism came off of this religion. Almost identical. And again, ancient Vedic, absolutely spot on to King Solomon. Everything else after was a distraction, was a tainted red herring. And you have forgotten the truth. Christ made a really good effort to step forward and try and revive it and get people back to it. But Rome, with their agenda, interfered and then supplanted all of this with their Holy Roman bullshit. So the Holy Roman BS, I'm going to call it that from now on, Holy Roman BS, threw all of this out in 380 CE when they destroyed the last of the schools that taught it. All university came from Solomon's temple, which then became all the philosophers' universities. This is the heart, the pulse of knowledge, wisdom, and information. It is not lost to us. You just need to know how to use it, which is revealed when you study in it. Kindergarten is spot on. They got that correct. First grade is spot on. Parents who understand the core beginning of infancy to 5 years old. When you surround your child with everything from music to arithmetic, that is exactly what the child needs between those age groups. It's after arithmetic that everything gets derailed, that everything needs to be picked up on. After arithmetic, we're screwed. And basically, it is the science of storytelling. This is the one subject that just does not exist anywhere. It's extraordinary how much it's absent. Storytelling is supposed to start at the second grade. Storytelling is what you get after you combine reading, writing, and arithmetic. And we do that in make-believe, theater, and stage. I'm going to point out that at the time when we should be mastering theater, stage, storytelling, and make-believe, we are told to give it up, and our imagination is taken away from us. So not only do they take away our imagination and make-believe, but they actually condition it out of us at the second grade at a time when we need it the most. This is on purpose. After theater, stage, make-believe, you're going to want epic poetry. Epic poetry was about ancient Greek theater. There is a reason why it was studied. It's literally how we communicate. It is logic in its existing form. It is the purest form of logic in its big picture. It's the big picture of logic. It's the greater whole. It's the integrated whole. Storytelling is the integrated whole of logic. Storytelling is the integrated whole of logic. Story. And it starts at the second grade with theater, stage, make-believe, and imagination. From there, we go into epic poetry, and then we get into ancient theater, we get into linguistics, and then we get into logic, and then mathematics. And this is where philosophy begins. This is literally right here where it all begins. Geometry ties together logic and math and language. That's all it does. All of that just ties together, which is why Euclid had what he had. Linguistics is actually part of mathematics. But when you have this section, when you have this part of 7 years old, 7 and 8 years old is when all of this is taken away from us. The problem is the moment our parents violate that no boundary at 2, 2, and 3 years old, that is where the trauma begins. That's where the disruption in our growth starts. The disruption of that no, and the disruption of a second time when we go over the second grade. So we see it again at 7 and 8 years old. So there is a disruption at 2 and 3 years old, and there is an educational disruption at 7 and 8 years old with imagination. A person who does not feel loved is a person who cannot feel nourishment or growth. It's a person who does not feel accepted. It's a person who feels like they cannot tell their truth and be accepted. That is what feeling loved is about. That is exactly what being loved is. It's your relationship with truth, vulnerability, talking, and still being received. There's more here. No, I would say that's it. Now that nourishes you. And that is the loving process. It is truth, vulnerability, talking, and being received. It's transmission. And that process nourishes you, which leads to love. Talking leads to love. But if you're not standing at Rata, then you're not going to be able to speak your truth. You're not going to be able to bear complete vulnerability because they are not trustworthy, because they are not at truth. They are not ethical. You cannot get to Rata without the ethics. You cannot. You cannot get to Rata without logic. This whole process is the story process, is the logic process. Story is integrated logic. All of this. Story is a true story. You have to tell a true story. If you don't tell a true story, you've told a lie. There is no such thing as fiction. That is one of the things we learn over in the abstract is, oh, fiction doesn't exist. It's all metaphorical, but that doesn't mean it's wrong. It's metaphorical. Story is just metaphorical. It's abstractic. It's when you integrate literal and metaphorical at the same time and it becomes the truth. It's abstractic. You're not going to get this until you are here. It's only understood at Rata. And suddenly you look at how literal and metaphorical have been disintegrated, and they're not supposed to be. How fiction and nonfiction are now disintegrated, and it's like, that doesn't even make sense. That doesn't make sense. There's so much illogic there. It can't even, there's just no logic. They are the same thing. They are absolutely the same thing. And once they come together, they give you a new thing. They give you a new thing. When you combine abstract or literal and metaphor, what you end up with is the story and the moral of the story. And there's truth in both of them. They are truth. It's like saying that an example is fiction. An example is not fiction because of the word if, which means it will happen or it already has happened, because it will happen. It's either in the future or it's in the present because of the probability of it happening. Therefore, it has happened or it will happen. Past and present stop existing. You know what I loved? I was reading on Rata. No, I was reading esotericism. I don't like the word. I don't like the concept of esotericism. It's called esoterikos. Esoterikos is what I study. Esoterikos is the ancient Zoroastrian. It's this. This is esoterikos. Esotericism is a Roman translation of what they think esoterikos was, but they have no fucking clue. So I don't like esotericism because it is a shitty translation or interpretation by someone who doesn't know anything about it. It is an outsider's point of view. And there it is. Either you're in it or you're out of it. You're an insider or you're an outsider. I am an insider of Rata, of the pilgrimage, of Asha. I am an insider of philosophy. I am an insider of esoterikos and King Solomon's wisdom. I am inside it. Everybody else is on the outside giving their opinion of what they think it is. And there is what I've been trying to say. I'm in it. And I'm looking at everybody going, you are an outsider talking about something you know nothing about because you're on the outside looking in, trying to see in, but you're not inside it. Because when you're inside it, you wouldn't be saying what you're saying. Because I'm inside it and I would never say what you're saying. Once you get inside of it, your mindset is different here. So now I can look at people, hear their mindsets, hear their words and go, yeah, you're not in it. Now they want to tell me their opinion. Why? That's you telling me your opinion of my home. And I'm going, I don't want to hear your opinion of my home. Well, it's my opinion, but you're having an opinion of my home. Why would I ever listen to you telling me what you think my home is when I've been living here since literally 1984? When I've studied it, when I was raised in it, when I'm saturated in it, when I think the way I think, knowing you don't think the way I think. And then I've got people who come along and tell me what they think my home is like without ever stepping foot into my home. We call that prejudice. Opinion is actually prejudice. That's all it is. And when you stand in Rata, you know that. Because you have made a decision without knowledge. Opinion is prejudice. And people who boast opinion are actually bragging prejudice. Yeah, I have a problem with opinion because I detest prejudice. So that's where I'll be where I am. And I'm going, I know what it's like here because I'm here. I've been here all my life. I've been through Asha. I've completed the pilgrimage. I've arrived at Rata. I am an Ashavan. And then to hear people who haven't even started the pilgrimage tell me what they think with their prejudice, and I refuse to hear it. I'm like, no, I don't allow prejudice. That's not an opinion, that's a prejudice. You need to study the difference and learn the languages. And when you start to study the prejudice and the opinion, it's suddenly a realization of, oh, opinion is prejudice. They're the exact same thing. Opinion is just a nice way of saying I'm prejudiced. And it's literally, you can't have prejudice with the truth. It's bias again. Now we're back to bias. There's no truth there. There is no truth in opinion, prejudice, or bias. There's no truth there. Therefore, it's not the truth. It can't be because it's a prejudice. It's not the truth unless you know, which is knowledge. You don't know because if you knew, then you would have the symptoms of knowing. The symptoms of knowing are you don't have to do self-care. You don't have to guess on anything. You can see lie and truth. You don't have to do any work to avoid abuse. It's just not around you. You never apologize because you never hurt people. You can literally measure. Yeah, that's it. That's it. And I'm referring to the I'm sorry, that constant I'm sorry. It's the constantly, when I read the modern Zoroastrian religion, the reason why I had a problem with it is because it's third generation. It's third generation. They believe that the religion revolves around 3 points, which means it's broken down to the third generation of evolution. It's disintegrated to the third point. The first point is Dharma and Karma. And the first generation is Rata, which is truth. Rata, or the truth, does not disintegrate. It's the only thing that does not disintegrate because it is the catalyst. It is outside of the integration disintegration process. It is the only thing that is exempt from integration and disintegration. It's immune to, it's pure logic. It is immune to lie and change. It's the first logic. Dharma and Karma are the second generation. The third generation, they talk about being nice to everyone. They talk about being loving, and they talk about truth. They don't talk about truth. They talk about something else. And it's 3 points. When I looked at the 3 points, I went, okay, let me go over here. Let me see if I can find it. It's the good agents. It's the dualism, polytheism. Oh, here it is. Okay. Tenets of faith. So they have mantras, which is mantra, which is the prayer formula. There is Asha, which is wisdom. And creation used to maintain good and fight. And then order. Order is Dina, which is the order of operations. Here it is. Truth-telling and following the threefold path. The threefold path. Governed by regular metronomic events such as sunrise and sunset, strengthened through truth-telling and following the threefold path. The motion of the planets and astral bodies. The progression of the seasons and the pattern of daily nomadic herdsman life, governed by regular metronomic events such as sunrise, sunset, strengthened through truth-telling and following the threefold path life. Good thoughts, good words, good deeds. That's what I was looking for. It is good thoughts. That's your mantra. Good words and good deeds. This is what the whole thing revolves around. And the problem with this is it's not simplified enough. It's the wrong simplification. It's a third generation of disintegration. The second one being dharma and karma, and the first one being rata. When you follow a generation, and I want to show you something else. For the Christian religion, it's the triadic God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit. Now, the Spirit would be the soul, which is supposed to be pure truth. The Father is supposed to be truth itself, which is rata, and the Son is Asha, which is wisdom. But again, you've broken it down into three parts. Now you've begun the disintegration process because you're starting not at the catalyst that's immune to disintegration, but you've taken out the core solid base, which is rata, the truth, and the second generation. The second generation is good and evil, the dichotomy of love. So you see that. So you have rata, or truth, which is God. And then the second generation, which is that dichotomy back and forth, karma, dharma. Or you have yin yang, second generation again. Or you have the dichotomy of good and evil, love and fear. Third generation. Now you've broken out to the third disintegration stage, which is God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit, or good thoughts, good words, good deeds. This is not good enough. You do not start disintegrating from this point, because this will unravel your entire, it's filled with lies. It's only stable if you have rata, which is truth. God is truth. Stop thinking of God as a gender man with a penis. That's stupid. That is so fucking archaic of you. Truth is an idea. An idea, which is why it's an image, imagine. Because an image is imagined first. An image is imagined. It's an idea. Truth is a purified idea without any lie. It has no lie, which means there is no logic, which means truth is just pure logic. Logic is the ultimate truth. Which is why when you are weaving it, you've integrated it down into the one point, which is the ultimate truth. The ultimate truth is love, truth, logic. And it is this, it's soul, it's rata. We're back to soul, we're back to rata. Now you can have rata, or this purified truth inside of you, if you don't lie. So now we're getting into the science of truth telling. That's really what this is about. The science of truth telling. Because once you start to live for rata and you start to tell the truth, oh my God, is it a wonderful experience. But you are looking at purging all of your lies. You are looking at having to unweave all of your logic. And that's really what this is. Every time a person seeks mental health or healing, what you're really doing is getting rid of all of your lies. You're getting rid of all the lies you were told. It's literally removing all your lies. Lies are what somebody didn't tell you. It's lacking knowledge. It is incorrect information. It is poor definition of word. It is misinformation. All of this is lie because none of that is truth. False information, lacking information, incorrect information, poor definition or wrong information or a definition, misinformation. I'm going to say it again. All of these are lie because none of those are truth. Intent is not relevant because the truth is the truth, no matter what. It doesn't matter if you believe in the truth is, which means your belief needs to conform to the truth, but you've got to know what that is. In order to know what the truth is, you're going to have to study the science of truth telling, the science of truth, which is logic. The more logic you have, the more you can literally sort out all of the lie out of you. You can figure out what's going on. You can figure out who lied to you. You can tell who's lying to you now, when, where. If somebody is being honest or ethical, you can tell the difference between ethics, love, and logic. You can tell the difference with all of that because you have logic. You don't need to call somebody up and argue with them to sort out your problems. You don't need to vent to anybody else. YouTube will do that for you for free without bothering anybody. And you can do it on your own time at your will. I call it Truth Purge Challenge. And when you start using words, which are the core building block of logic. So in storytelling, you have storytelling, and this is logic. You have words, and from words, you get into sentences and definition now. So now you've defined, so now you have an image or a picture, and it moves. Well, now you have a story. Everything revolves around this. Everything. It is literally the order of operations, the natural order. And this is it, is logic is only pure nature. It cannot be anything else. The minute nature is not present in logic, it's not logic anymore. It's just not logic. It's a dichotomy. It's either natural logic or there's nothing there. There's nothing else. So the natural order of logical events. This is logic. It's the natural order of events, the natural progression of everything. There is literally a formula of the natural order of everything. It's the same thing over and over again. It is a seed, which I call Plato's point. It is disintegration. And then it is integration. And then it is a seed again. Over and over again, it's the same thing, no matter what you look at. That pattern is regular. It's extraordinarily trackable. It is in the preliminary of all life. It is how cell mitosis occurs. It is in biology. It is in plant formations. It's in everything. Every cell, every molecule follows this pattern. Every atom follows this pattern. Everything. This is the building block of life. This is the first block. This is the first block of life. The process of going through it is growth, is love, is nourishment. The process of not doing this is malnourishment, mental illness, disease. The process of learning is this process. Learning is the natural order of logical events, no matter what. We have to do this. It's not, and here's the thing is we do it naturally. And right now we've got the majority of people who don't do it at all, who are violating the first law of nature. And this is it. It's the first law of nature. The majority of people are violating the first law of nature, which is this formula, this order, this natural order of logical events. The minority of people are trying to figure it out. And I am the only one who has figured it out. Now, a lot others are tradesmen. They might be here, but they don't know what it is. But they're not really here. They're on their way. I have yet to meet anyone who actually is able to articulate this. Solomon did because he passed it on to Zoroaster. Zoroaster did because he passed it on to Pythagoras. Pythagoras did because he passed it on to Plato. But based on where I saw Plato and Pythagoras notes, see, they've got it. But I can see exactly where they were. They were not at the 45th center. Unless, oh, this makes sense. Because their studies were interrupted because this makes sense. Because Socrates' execution occurred. After that occurred, like it was like a deterioration. They went into survival mode instead of learning mode. They couldn't grow after that. That's why everything that's when everything stopped. If you look at, I have the graph of when we discovered wisdom and education, and there's this gorgeous progression, and it stops. It ends with Socrates, Aristotle. There's nothing after that. There was no more. There was rediscovery, but there was literally this abrupt end. We were going through this massive, we're learning stuff, and then we stopped. So you can see in the 4th century how instantly there's no more learning. And it's because they switched over into a survival mode. You cannot do this if you're surviving. You can't. And that's it right there. You can't do it if you're surviving. So the first thing would be survival mode, which is what Tradic healing does, is that gets you out of survival mode. So you have survival mode. Once you get out of survival mode, then you switch over to learning mode. So and I'm long past survival mode. I'm way past. I am in learning mode part 2. That's where I am in. I am in learning mode part 2. Everybody else is in survival mode. A few people are coming out of survival mode and stepping into learning mode. Here's the thing. When you get to this point, you're not quiet. You don't keep it to yourself. You share it, which is why Solomon shared it in his temple, which is why Zoroaster went over to the ancient Greeks and said, here's this information, which is why Pythagoras said, okay, Plato, I'm going to teach you this shit. Plato said, okay, I'm going to do this school and I'm going to teach everybody, which is why Socrates built his, well, Socrates, there's contention whether or not he existed or not, but Aristotle built his school and because this is what you do. You tell everybody. You don't keep this a secret. So when I see hermits who are wise, hoarding themselves away, they're in the oasis. They are in the oasis. And that is where I really, that you're in the oasis. You're only 15% of the way through the journey. You didn't even make it through the 12 trials of Hercules yet. You made it to the 7th trial of Hercules and you quit. So there's a lot of people who are in the 7th trial of Hercules. Not even. They're in the 6th trial of Hercules. They quit, and they're claiming to be at nirvana. No, because I'm at nirvana, and I know what that looks like, and it's not at all where you guys are. Where you guys are looks like where I was when I was in the 6th perspective. You guys look like my 6th perspective, which tells me you're all at the 6th perspective. And now I'm looking at it going, yeah, how do you wake up a group of people and tell them, yeah, you are not even learning anymore. You've quit. You got to a respite and you thought the respite was the end, so you quit and you stopped. A And it's so mind-blowing. And the thing is, the Buddha never made it past that point. And he was fucking smart. And I'm going, Buddha couldn't figure this out. So he just spent all of his days meditating. He had followers, but he didn't build a school. But again, he isolated and hermited himself. That is not a proper example. I was watching Numbers, and one of the characters was going into the monasteries, and they were annoyed that he was there because he was an outsider. And I'm going, yeah, those are really shitty monks. Those are really narrow, closed-minded monks. And there's this, and this is it right here, is there are people who love the feeling of it, but who don't do the work. And they stand in the presence of it, and then they go, oh, I know all about it. No, you don't. You're standing in the presence of it. You're on the outskirts of it. It does feel good, but you're not in it. Going into it is a completely different mindset. And what it feels like when you're in it is you keep your eye on the horizon at all times. And the eye is the Rata, it's the truth. And it's the constant trying to figure out what happened in history. It's being able to identify the logic and trying to figure out mystery. It's literally being able, it's training yourself how to see the truth from lies. And the best way to do it is by looking at the history books and sorting through it. Like, really, our history book, when I teach my school, it's here's the history books. Now, your job is to tell me where all the lies are. That's your job. Take up all of history and you find the lies. Can you clean up the history books? Because that's the test. So on the first day of kindergarten, I'm going to hand you the history books and I'm going to say to you, here's history, all of it. This is what was recorded. Now you are to sort out the lies. Find the lies, find the inconsistency, and set it right. Ask the question, why did they lie? That is big. Why would they lie? Let's look at, the other thing you want to look at is look for inconsistency. You want inconsistency. Anywhere in the history book where no one can agree, that's a lie. So if there's discord, it's a lie. If it is identical or constant, and I do mean constant, then it's truth. How much truth can you find when you actually sit down and look at all of history and compare all of the history books? There was a flood, because that is consistent. There was a flood. Absolutely, there was a flood. That showed up in every fucking culture. There was a flood. Actually, only in the Middle East. There was a flood. We got that. There was a dude named King Solomon who very much did discover true wisdom, and he did teach it to others. And all the other religions, you got to know which ones to look for. Zoroaster or Zarathustra, same person, same, just different language name. And the Vedic with Rata and Zoroaster's Asha. Make sure you are in everything prior to 380 CE. You can trust everything prior to 380 CE. After 380 CE, that's the cutoff. But you're going to see signs and symptoms. Look for violence toward the peaceful. That is big. And when you start to break it down, the truth becomes so obvious. And this technique can be used on any person and any business, corporation, the history books, all of it. And there's this massive, I watch so many of these political videos where people are like, we've got a problem, we've got a problem, we've got a problem. And then other people going, we need to solve it, we need to solve it. Other people going, I have a solution, I have a solution. And then no one executes. This is that execution. In order to solve it, you need education. 100% of societal problems is due to this information missing. 100% of all societal problems is because this information is absent from your culture. That's it. You are missing this knowledge. Like this is it. This is the common denominator I found when I went, oh, so this is why everything's fucked up, because this knowledge is missing. That's it. This knowledge is missing. That is really it. 100% of all societal problems are present because this knowledge is missing. That's it. You plug in this knowledge to your culture. It's already here. It's already for you. You just got to learn it. And this will literally fix everything. It fixes all things. I can't emphasize that enough. It's literally the problem is, oh, this is the problem. This knowledge is gone. It's extraordinary. I watched this video where this man came in and he went, here's all the problems with all of society. And he diagnosed all of it. And he went, boom, 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 boom. And I went, wow. He talked about finance. He talked about governments. And I went, okay. But then he got to the psychology part and he was a fucking idiot. His solution for mental health was take away cell phones from children under 16, as in take away social media. That I do agree with. No child should be on social media before they're 16 years old. I agree. I did not allow my children on social media. How old were you when you had access to social media? How old were you when you finally got access to social media? You were 13 or 12? But you did Instagram, right? Or YouTube? Just Instagram.
I have like 2 apps, like max.
Yeah. You're still not on social media though. You have YouTube.
I don't like post videos.
Yeah, she doesn't post videos or anything. So she watches YouTube and she has her own Instagram account. And that started at 12 or 13. But no, Facebook, no, she doesn't have any. No, that's yeah. Like she's 16 and it's like I'm off of it. I'm at a point where I'm like, so, but that's one of the things he said is no one under the age of 16 should be on social media. He's like, what the hell? I agree with that. Absolutely. No one under the age of 16. If you are not a legal adult, you are, and you're online, you are literally pedophile bait. Like, what are you doing? Do not put your children on social media until they are 18 years and older. Like, seriously. That will solve the how old are you problem. Don't allow children on social media before they're 18 years old. It's the dumbest fucking thing. So that being said, yeah, and she deleted her Instagram account too. She stopped following it after a while. She just, so she only uses YouTube really for the training for her educational videos.
That's not really social media because I literally just use Pinterest.
She uses Pinterest.
For like inspiration.
Yeah, she uses Pinterest. But yeah, but she's not using it for social media. She's using it literally for collecting pictures. And Instagram is where she puts her cat pictures. Do you still do your cat pictures?
No.
No, you stopped doing that? Yeah. Yeah, it's all right. Yeah, so she stopped doing that. So literally it's just collecting. She just collects Pinterest for her inspiration for her art and YouTube. So she doesn't do any socializing on the social medias. And I know she does for YouTube. That's all of her education. That is where she gets all of her art education, her history, her geography, all of it comes from YouTube. She's turned YouTube into her school, and she selects her own teachers. I taught her my standards. So she knows how to look for a master, and she selects master instructors and master teachers. And then she follows their instructions. So she knows how to learn from masters. So 100% of all societal problems comes from the lack of this knowledge in our system. That's it. It's all of this knowledge. And when I was going through what the fuck is wrong with it, right? Going back to this guy, when he was going over, this is how you fix, it was stupid what he was saying. That was the only thing he got right. The other two, I can't even remember. I just remember it was so illogical. I'm like, that's dumb. It was definitely by someone who knew nothing about psychology. But he talked like he was an expert at it. So now I'm looking at it going, okay, are you a good talker? Do you actually know your shit? And this is a professor of NYU. And I'm looking at it going, well, now I'm questioning the rest of his validity on those other topics because I can see his idiocy with psychology now. And I'm going, well, you talked with the same confidence on that as you're talking over there. So now I'm looking at you going, well, you're an idiot. How do I know now that you're valid over here with that? Now he had graphs for everything else. So he had evidence for everything else. And it's all Googleable. It's all Googleable. Like some of the stuff he was talking about. And yeah, like it was basically a whole, this is what's wrong. And he was showing what we already knew. So he was, again, repeating, we already know the situation is pretty fucking bad. We know the situation is bad. And this is where it's, well, how do we fix it? In order to fix the problem with society, you've got to know what the problem is. But there is symptoms, and then there's the actual problem. And the problem is actually education. Everything comes from education, which is the moral of this story. An entire culture and civilization is the byproduct of its educational system. The entire society is the way it is because your educational system is the way it is. Your education is the problem. Because if your education was right, you wouldn't have any problem like this. All problems stem from your educational system. So now it brings in the question of what the fuck happened with your educational system? Well, I know, but I'm the only one who knows because I'm the only one who did the research and traced it all the way back to the origin of education. So the origin of education is King Solomon, who built the first temple, which was really a school, who then passed it on to the very first education people, which were the Zoroasters, whose only religion was tell the truth and be wise. You can't get more fucking pure with education than that. Tell the truth, pursue truth, and be wise. This was their religion. Gnosticism, esotericos, and Zoroastrian, the Vedic, were the next four pieces that all were inspired off of them. And they're right. I did the work. I researched it. They are 100% aligned with the truth. Again, they were all prior to 380 CE. So in 380 CE, there was a war that was declared on education by the Romans. The Romans declared war on education when they killed Socrates in 340 BCE. After that, it was literally them killing and destroying scholars. They killed Christ. They burned all of Athens because Athens contained two of the primary universities. And then in 380 CE, the same year they declared the Nicene Christian religion was the official religion of the Roman Empire. And then they called themselves the Holy Roman Empire to fool everybody. They wiped out Alexandria. So for 800 years, approximately, there was a war on education. And then after they destroyed Alexandria, they thought they'd finish the job by wiping out Ireland's educational system, because Ireland's education was almost identical to this material. Ireland had it figured out too, which is why they had druids and bards, which were philosophers. Druids and bards were the other branch of this. And St. Patrick didn't do it. He refused to kill them. He preserved it instead. So they flourished until the 1600s. They never had a dark ages, which tells me that the dark ages were caused by the complete demise and fall of education. So now it brings the question, where the fuck did you guys get your educational system from? Because there was no educational system. The educational system came out in around 1088 CE. It was invented by Romans, the same people who ordained that they destroy the education to begin with. And they never studied education. They destroyed it. They didn't study it. So your educational system was literally designed by people who destroy education. Education and knowledge destroyers built your educational system. Literally, liars and truth haters and wisdom haters, druj, built your educational system. And now your entire society behaves like a druj. Your entire society behaves like a liar and a truth hater because that's your education. It was built by truth haters and wisdom haters. So it's all there. It's documented. Everything I said is 100%. I cite the sources on my website. I have an entire course, the 2,000-year war in education, and you can go through the entire war, track it, and I've got literally the whole thing in the right order of operations, showing you the entire breakdown of it, including why, where it's going, their motive, what exactly was going on, and here's all the sources to cite it. And I use dozens of sources. This is not secret. You just don't know because you haven't studied it, because your educational system did not want you to realize that they're druj. So when an educator comes to me and they boast, oh yeah, I'm an educator. Oh, you have a degree in druj and dishonesty and lying. I'm not impressed. Do you know the history? Who was the first person who discovered wisdom and knowledge? Most people cannot tell you this. Only druj can, or I'm sorry, only Asha can. Only Rata can. And once you put it in the right order of operations, the whole, oh, this is what happened. This is what's going on. So now it's okay. There's your problem with society. 100% of all societal problems is lacking true knowledge, is lacking this knowledge. And when you start to unwrap Rata, which is the 12 ethics, broken down prior is the 4 cardinal values, which then gives you literally, well, it would be Rata, and then it would be Dharma and Karma, and then it would give you the 3 trilogy, and then it would give you the 4 cardinal values. The 12 ethics are the 12th generation of breakdown. The 4th generation of evolution, disintegration, integration is the cardinal values. The second is the love versus fear. But you need to integrate back to the first, which is Rata. Once you do that, the whole thing will fix itself. All you have to do is get back to Rata. So now it's Rata versus your ego. Now we have a problem. Ego is druj. Rata is truth. Ego is lie. Rata is pure logic. Why do we have to study? How do we study? What do we study? the pursuit of truth, of wisdom and knowing is the goal and agenda of every scientist in the world. And every life learner is on this path. Every philosopher is on this path. Every pilgrim is on this path. Every scientist has figured it out, and that's why they're doing science. The scientist is the most advanced in our culture. They're the ones who went through the pilgrimage. They figured this out. They became a life learner and a philosopher and a pilgrim. And then they went, oh, science is the answer. And then they went to science. All the life learners, philosophers, and pilgrims are trying to figure out what it is. And the answer is science. That's why scientists are advancing, because they're actually pursuing, because they're doing it right. The people who are looking for healing want relief, but they have no idea where to get it from. They have no idea what they're looking for. The activists aren't even trying to solve the problem without doing any of the work. So activists, healers, life learner, philosopher, pilgrim, scientists. And then outside of the activist and the healer kind of like they toggle back and forth. Some people get to the healing and then they go activist. Some people get to activist and then they go healing. They know they want change. The problem is they don't know what kind of change they want. And this is where they're just stuck. And I'm looking at all of this going, oh, wow, there's a pattern. And then there's the stupid. And these are the people who are just not learning at all. They are just not on Asha. They are druj. They are druj. They are just pure druj. And the majority of people right now are druj. The activists in the healing, the problem is they have too much druj in them to figure it out. So the activists and the healing people are battling druj. But the problem is the druj are all about the ego. And they are actually at war with the truth. Life learners, philosophers, and pilgrims have figured out the truth, and they are in pursuit of it. And then you get into the scientists, and they've got it figured out. Now, the scientists are at this point where they're going to get pushed because the next stage after scientist is wizard and mage. And that contradicts with the agreed upon reality, but it completely is void of the entire big picture. So now the scientists are going to get to a point where they're going to have to admit that magic is real. And they are going to be the only ones qualified to go into it and pursue it. So this is literally the spectrum of, are you a druj? Are you an activist, or are you seeking healing? Are you a life learner, philosopher, pilgrim, or are you a scientist? This is the spectrum. And once you understand where everything is in this massive spectrum and where you are, you can literally figure out how far, like, are you even on the journey to go toward? Once you find the journey, lifelong learners and philosophers have 36 levels to go. Right there. They have 36 levels to go. Just solid right there. The problem with scientists is they're not going for the self. They're going for the external knowledge. So they're not doing it internally. That's the problem, is they're not esotericos. They're not Gnostics. I remember being told that Gnostic was dangerous and not to go near it. I was taught this by my Southern Fundamental Baptist family. So I was worried that Gnosticism was a cult. I studied cults, so I know exactly what a cult is. And it really became very, very clear to me, very, very clear to me where everything was. And basically, a cult is narcissism. I'm going to call it consumption, though. A cult is consumption. when it destroys, it doesn't nourish. It's literally pure disintegration. And it is Stockholm Syndrome. It is disintegration and Stockholm Syndrome. That is a cult. You have to have both qualifications. You have disintegration and you have Stockholm Syndrome. That is a cult. If you have just disintegration, well, that's just a narcissistic relationship. Well, narcissism is a cult. It's a cult. I can't get around this. The more I look through the logic of it, narcissism is a mini cult. You might be a cult of two people, but it's a cult. And a cult is narcissism. The entire society is heading towards cultism. It's disintegration and Stockholm Syndrome. So when you look at where you are on this spectrum of wisdom, it's really putting everything in perspective on where it is you're going to go with it. And the thing is, if you're not on this because we grow, then you will disintegrate. Disintegration happens all over this unless and until you pursue Asha. It is the only cure to disintegration. That's what I'm trying to say. The only cure to disintegration is pursuing Asha or being an Ashavanta. I got to look up this word again. My memory when it comes to words, it's why I constantly Ashavan. It's why Ashavan. Ashavan. So the pursuit of Rata with Asha. So either you are an Ashavan or you are in pursuit of Rata. It is the only cure to disintegration because truth is immune to disintegration, which means you will disintegrate unless and until you are at Rata, which is where the Garden of Eden was. Now let's just take a look at that. See, that really hits me a lot as I'm going, okay, therefore the Garden of Eden and the tree of knowledge was 100% in the Garden of Eden. That's why there was no aging, is because they were immune to disintegration because they were at Rata. So the Garden of Eden was Rata. See, there's just so much illogic all over this story, which tells me they've tampered with it. So breaking down the logic and sorting out the lie from truth. For instance, Eve and the snake had a relationship. Oh my God, did they? That is so fucking clear. Like, I would say that the snake, the serpent, was actually a trickster. It would not surprise me if it were Loki. And Eve was married to Loki. Eve and Loki, or Eve and the snake, were married. Adam really confuses me. I think Adam was her brother. I think Adam and Eve were brother and sister. And Eve was what? It does make more sense. I think Adam and Eve were brother and sister, and Loki and Eve, or the snake and Eve, had a relationship. Because there's so much with that snake. First of all, Eve, healer, and then snake is medicine. And Eve is Mother Nature, Mother Earth. Now that makes sense. It would make sense that a healer would need medicine, which would represent the snake, which is why the Greeks had the snake representing medicine. You had to have the healer and the medicine. So when you look at that combination, you've got Eve, the Mother Nature, and then the snake. That makes a lot more sense. Which explains why Eve and Adam came from the same parent. That's just it. That's it right there. If Eve had Adam's rib, that would make her genetically his sister. That doesn't even make biological sense. If she had his rib, then she was genetically his sibling or parent. Adam and Eve were brother and sister. They were not married. They were siblings. which is why they were related, because they shared genetic DNA code, because she had his rib. Adam and Eve were brother and sister. They had the same parent, which was God, which is why God showed up and said, who the fuck ate my tree? And then she goes, well, I didn't do it, he did. Well, I didn't do it, she did.
Oh my God, siblings.
Just like siblings. Just like siblings. God didn't sit down with the snake and Eve. He sat down with Eve and Adam and said, you two, who broke the fucking lamp? He didn't do it, she did. He didn't do it, she. Oh no, Adam and Eve were brother and sister. She had his genetic code. Adam may have been the firstborn and Eve was the secondborn, but they were absolutely genetically related. She had his fucking rib. All right, I feel better. So Eve and Adam are brother and sister. I knew there was something up. I'm like, something doesn't make sense. I don't think they were married. No, there's something there that doesn't make sense. But the way the snake talks to Eve, he was invested in her remembering. And I'm going, wow, he really wanted her to remember. Why was the snake so adamant? Why did the snake approach Eve and not Adam? Why did the snake want her to remember? There was intent behind that snake. Why was the snake the only one talking when everybody else in that garden was an animal and they were braying or cawing, but not the snake? No, that particular snake was talking, which is why I kept going back to it. Well, you know what's interesting is Loki, the trickster, was a shapeshifter. And I'm going, that's interesting. And Loki, the trickster, was all about making people laugh with his jokes. Laughter is the best medicine. So it would make sense that a healer like Eve, Mother Nature, would absolutely be partnered up with the god of laughter, medicine. That makes sense. That makes pure sense. That has bothered me for a very long time. I'm so glad I finally figured it out. That was just like driving me nuts. I'm like, that doesn't make sense because they're related. I could feel that from day one. I'm like, aren't they siblings? They're siblings. She's got his fucking rib. They're from the same genetic code. They are related. What I don't understand is why, as soon as she gained knowledge and wisdom, was she no longer able to be an Rata? That's the other part of the story that doesn't make sense. That was Rata, unless it was a delusion. Unless it was a delusion. Unless it was a delusion. The Garden of Eve was a delusion. The Garden of Eden was a delusion. The menagerie. The menagerie. It wasn't the Garden of Eden, it was a menagerie. Now that makes sense. It was a menagerie. And when she ate of the fruit, she gained Asha, wisdom. And she realized she was in a delusion. She saw the delusion. I said right there, she saw the delusion. Knowledge breaks the delusion. And it does. Knowledge breaks the delusion. The delusion is just dangerous illusion built off of druj. I can start to see the curriculum. I can start to see the story of truth and wisdom. And as you start to use logic to break down every single lie, like you can start to use logic and figure it out. And then, oh, that's what it really is. So now when we're looking at something like, well, the Garden of Eden, the deluge or the mirage, it's an oasis. I understand. It's an oasis. That is exactly what the oasis is. You think you're in the Garden of Eden when you're not. That's where you get knowledge and wisdom. That is where you get wisdom. Because as soon as you get wisdom, you step into the seventh, and then the delusion is gone. You could almost argue, and on the seventh day he rested. It was the seventh day, the seventh ethic. And on the seventh day, that seventh ethic, that's when you get wisdom. And that's when the delusion breaks. We always do it. Mom and dad have 2 children. I don't want him to be lonely. God gave Adam Eve so he wouldn't be lonely. Just like a mom and dad would do. I want to have 2 children so the oldest wouldn't be lonely. How could we miss this? See, this is the kind of stuff I'm looking at going, that was a sibling. That was a parent saying, let's have more offspring so we can have 2 children so they won't be lonely. Adam and Eve were brother and sister. And Eve broke the delusion. Because she got wisdom. It began her pursuit of truth. It began everyone's pursuit of truth. What is the truth? And the story that unfolds when you read the Bible at that point is actually the pursuit of truth. It reads so different. Once you get to Rata, the book completely reads differently. And for instance, like it's so, it's like you need the forward of this book. It's the introduction. It's the first chapter. And the first chapter of this book was lost, forgotten. And everyone's been starting to read from the second and the third chapter. And it completely changes the story if you don't read from the first or the second chapter. It's a completely different book. It's like trying to read the Harry Potter series, but you're going to start at book 3. You're just, it's not going to make sense. And then people try and explain it because they don't make sense. If you have to explain something in depth, it's because you're missing information, a lot of information. There's nothing to explain when you go back to King Solomon. He's actually the first story. It all should have started with King Solomon. He should have been the first story of the Bible, where he goes and says, okay, I'm going to tell you the story of how I came to wisdom. And this is what I discovered. I hypothesized that there is this entire thing between wisdom and not wisdom. And either you pursue it and you're okay and you're integrating toward the truth, which is Rata, or you're not. Now, there's a journey that unfolds. And if you are not on board with this process, you will disintegrate until you become empty, which is vain, and then nothing. And you will end up with mental illness. You will end up aging. You will die. But you get onto this road and you pursue Rata and you go through the process, and that is the journey of Asha. That is the Asha journey. That is your pilgrimage. That's what you're doing. But these words aren't even in our dictionary to even understand them. They used to be. They were taken out. Because this journey is so amazing and so powerful that when you're done with it, it starts magic, real magic, and that scared muggles. So this became a massive, muggles ended up taking out the mages, which is really weird, but it happened and it's all documented. In 380 CE, they built a witch trap and literally took out all the mages. I wish I was making this up. Wizard means philosopher and sage. And they took out all the philosophy wizarding schools by 380 CE. And then they went after the schools that gave you druids and bards. What were they doing if not taking out mages and wizards? And then they have, thou shalt not suffer a witch to live. I know that came later, but the mentality was still there. They killed cats because that was Freya's animal. Cats were Freya's animal. She had 2 cats that pulled the chariot across the sky in Norse mythology. The witch hunts targeted cats because they belonged to Freya. Freya is one of the founding schools. You had Freya's school of the Sitkona. You had the druids and the bards. And you had the mages, wizards, and philosophers. This is all highly documented stuff. Like, it's history. You had the magi, you had the wizards, you had philosophers and sages. They were located in Greek mythology. They were located in ancient Greece, and they were located in Zoroaster, Persia. It spread like wildfire. India. And then the Norse had Freya, and Ireland had the druids and the bards. So you had these 3 magical powerhouses between Norway, Ireland, and this gorgeous King Solomon. I'm just going to call it like Solomon's nest. Solomon's seal is over here, by the way. When you get into the abstract, Solomon's seal is all over the place. And when you start to look at Freya with her cats, and then Ireland with their druids and bards, Solomon with his empire. Solomon's, I can't call it an empire, but it really is Solomon's empire. And that's what I'm trying to say is, guys, we are all part of Solomon's empire. That's what we're all putting together here is Solomon's empire. Some of you have found Freya's work, and some of you have found the Irish work. But you've got to put it together to see the big picture. You've got to look at the history of it. Once you do the history, now you understand, okay, this is what it is. History, and it really bothered me that Plato did not have any history in his work. It was delivered orally of, let's talk about the why. It's the introduction. It's the forward to education. That's what history is. History is the forward of education. It's welcome to education. Welcome to education. So what I would do is I would formally go through 2nd grade. I would do a course on it, but really 12 years old. Let me go here for a minute. So you have kindergarten, which is 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th. So 2nd grade, 7 years old. That would be the first one. 10, 11, 12, 4, 5, 6, 7th grade. 7th grade, 12 years old. And 2nd grade, 7 years old. 7 and 12 would be the 2 years that I would absolutely stop and say, okay, it's time we actually talk about education. So I would spend a year in 7-year-olds and tell them history. That would just be pure history. That's when they need to know this is the educational system. This is what happened. And I would paint the entire picture of all of wisdom and all of knowledge through all of time. And then I would go into, again, the 7th and 12th. I would go into the 2nd and 3rd level of what was really developed there. Then I would do another year of just solid history with everything. Now, Plato did not have this in his curriculum, and it's one of the things that, again, really bothered me. And I know why. It's because once you complete it, you're supposed to accumulate all of history, but I would not do all of history. I would just say, like, this is the part where you need to know about King Solomon. And yeah, King Solomon and how it branched off from there. Like, this is where wisdom comes from. And where they go from there, and the student will intuitively be drawn to wherever their interest takes. What it happens is, this is the order of operations with your curiosity and your wonderment. You have curiosity, you have wonder, you have interest, and then you have investigation. With investigation, you have exploration, and then you have discovery. So this is literally the process of, this is amazing. I am huge on archaeology is the other one. So these are the parts of us that are naturally embedded into us: curiosity, wonder, interest, investigation, exploration, discovery, and archaeology. We do these no matter what. These do not have to be taught. They can be taken away from us. They can be discouraged and destroyed in us, but they are there no matter what. These are the building blocks. This is the core ignition of learning and education. So where it starts is you have a spark of interest, and then you become curious, or you wonder. I can't tell if curiosity or wonder happens in a certain order. They kind of cross over. Sometimes it's, I wonder what this is, and then you become curious. They go back and forth. So I'm going to call those both two. And then you investigate.
Investigate.
Yes, invest. Yeah, you're investing time into it. Investigate. After you investigate it, then you explore. And then after you explore, it's discovery. Once you discover it, then you have knowledge. Then you have knowledge, and it's embedded into your intuition. This process is archaeology. This process is all archaeology. It's literally wisdom archaeology, Asha archaeology. That's what I do. That is what I do. This is all I do. I gain an interest, which is curiosity and wonderment, and then I investigate, I explore, I discovered, and then I have knowledge. And that process over and over, that is the order of operations of learning. That is so natural to our existence. It's just in our brains. So when you read a book and you come upon something in the book that gets your interest, I did this with the Phantom of the Opera. I was interested in 100% of everything inside the Phantom of the Opera. The Phantom of the Opera began, here we go, ancient history. Archaeology simply means ancient history. That is not true. Let me look at that one more time. That is not true. That is not true. Archaeos means ancient. Yes. Oh, I see where they fucked up. Logi means the logic of. So it's ancient logic. That is actually, see, when you learn how to speak ancient Greek, you know when they're lying to you. Logia, I'm going to show you right here. Logi means logic. Archaeos is Greek for ancient, correct. But logia does not mean history. Historia. Historia. Look up the word history for ancient Greek. History, ancient Greek. Yeah, you are correct. Yeah, thank you. So the ancient Greek word for history is historia. It's historia. So if it actually meant, logos does not mean theory or science. Logos means logic. You see where they have fucked up the word. That is not. Science means study, which is a studio. Already been through this. It's a studia. A studia is the Greek word for science. Science means to study. A studia. Logos means logic. That's right. It means that's because it went from Greek over to Latin, over to Spanish. Correct. So archaeology is ancient logic. That is actually what the word means. If it was history, it would be called archaehistoria. Archaehistoria is what it would be called. Archaehistoria. Yeah, once you learn ancient Greek, you could see all the bullshit. It's like, okay, you guys don't speak ancient Greek. You're not translating it properly. And then when you look over at ancient Persia, completely different, like it has different words. This is what we mean by you got to study linguistics. Now you can go back and you can start pulling out what the actual words mean. So every time you see the word logi, it comes from logia, which is logic, which is actually a Persian word. And I'm still trying to figure out where that is because that's buried. But it's spelled the same way as magic, logic. And I'm going, interesting. So magi, logi, what the hell is a logi? I haven't been able to find it yet. That one's buried fucking deep. But the problem is when you Google something like magic or logic, it says, oh, well, that came from, well, no, if you look up, yeah, it comes from the ancient Greek. No, it doesn't. Ancient Greece, in this case, is actually the second generation of disintegration, which means the first is going to be disintegration is just the direction, by the way. Integration is that way. Yeah, it's just a direction. Integration means toward truth and love. Disintegration means away from truth and love. That's all it means. So if you have, when you get to something like the second generation of disintegration, that means you are 2 generations away from the truth. The truth is the first generation. Now, I'm going to show you this with psychology. When you guys are talking about PTSD, that is about 20 generations away from the core truth, which means you're disintegrating. When they come up with CPTSD, now they're in the sixth generation. Now they're talking about ADHD. Now they're talking the next gen. So they are actually moving away from the truth. They are disintegrating, and they're not reverse engineering it. They're not even constructing it. They're just disintegrating, which is why they can't solve the problem. It's because they're getting further and further away from the catalyst, which is logic. Ironic. So if they use logic to actually go toward logic, they would find the truth, which is your logical code is fucked up. Because once you start integrating and putting everything back, it takes you closer and closer to logical comprehension. And once you get there, you go, oh, it's the disintegration of logic itself. Mental illness is just mental disintegration. It's mental disintegration because you have literally disintegrated the self. Because what holds the self together is pure truth and logic. And once you do that, you get to feel love, which is nourishing growth. I can go over this over and over again all day long. Like it's your love pod. Your love pod is just truth, logic, wisdom, and love. And it's just this gorgeous, and then it's the core of your generator. And then everything goes off and it's beautiful and it expands. So when you get to that point of the second 2-year-olds, or not 2 years, 7-year-olds, they really need that. It's time we talk about why you're here. Now that you've got the structure, now that you understand we've got this thing here called school, now that you understand that you've got reading, writing, and arithmetic, now we're going to talk to you about Asha, your journey. And that's it right there. Everything starts there. I would not change anything with kindergarten and first grade. That is really solid. Teachers need to sit on the floor with students. Parents need to sit on the floor with children. Like everybody needs to be down on the ground. There is no children's table. Do not do that anymore. No children's table. You see the children there is a people table and only a people table. Stop disintegrating. And when they get to 7 years old, parents, you're going to have to be the ones to do this because the teachers won't. The teachers in America will not move unless somebody tells them to because they're parents. So it's going to be up to parents to start this trend on how to educate your child. You know, I love homeschooling. I cannot tell you enough how much I loved it. And part of me more and more wants to just talk to parents about this because it always comes back to love of our children. And you want the best for your children, always. So maybe I'll do that. Maybe because it's really a parenting class and a teaching class. And The problem is, parents, you're going to go through this and you're going to run into the same problems that I did, where as you start to correct your parenting, you realize how you're lacking. So it's going to be we're going to parent your children, and you're going to need to teach your children, but you're also going to run into, and parents are humbled. Parents are so fucking humbled. Parents are really humbled. They get a reminder every day that they don't know what they're doing. There is nothing more humbled than a parent. I love parents. Parents are the first in line for growth, the first in line for self-improvement, the first in line for everything. And you literally have your future right in the palm of your hand. And you don't want to fuck it up any more than I did. My children were the breaking point for me, where I said, I got to get my shit turned around. Something's wrong. I figured out that I was going the wrong way. Because I had all this fucking knowledge and I was still not getting better. And I went, what the hell? Why does all of this knowledge not equate to me being better? It was the wrong knowledge. I had to get the 12 ethics. As soon as I had the 12 ethics, everything went completely, it finally turned me right around. The 12 ethics will point you to the truth. The 12 ethics point you to Rata. And I cannot make that more clear to you. 100% of all of our problems in society are due to this knowledge is missing. Bottom line, this knowledge is missing. This is what is wrong with the world today. And you are either disintegrating or you're integrating. And the only way you can integrate is if you point to the truth. And the only way to point to the truth is to use the 12 ethics to do it. There is no other way. I have studied every other way. I have done every other way. And I'm telling you, this is the only one that worked. And I mean, it worked so fucking good that in a year I was cured of everything. It's potent stuff. It is potent. And when I put people on this program, they're done in like a month. It's crazy. It is astounding. But you have got to really get the big picture of what's going on. And I'm trying to figure out, and the more I think about this, the more I'm looking at it going, there really is no other way around this. There really is nothing else to be broken down. It's parents. And there's something in me that's resisting wanting to work with parents. And I can't tell you why. I don't know why. I have this massive, I don't want to work with parents. Why? And I don't know why. I think there's something, I don't know why. So I have to dig that out. Parents there's two very, very powerful people in the world. The parent and the business owner. You two people, you've got it down. You two are like the massive thing in the world. Parents, you get to decide what teacher touches your child. That's a lot of power. You get to decide what education you should have for your child. But you don't even know what an educational system is because you weren't taught that. And you can feel it. You can feel this decision. You walk into, and that's it. You walk into adulthood, you walk into parenting, and you're going, what the hell happened? Like, what? They didn't prepare me for this. And there's that grief and that shock of what the fuck? They didn't teach me. They didn't prepare me. No, they didn't have the right educational system. Your educational system came from literally a war society that imperializes, that destroys education. Like, so the educational system that's out there is going to do nothing but teach you how to war and fight, which is why everyone is warring and fighting. And So it's definitely covering what we should be doing from infancy up to kindergarten. And in addition to that, it's literally preparing you to make sure you are the best parent. So it would be preparing you to be the best parent. And this is fantastic for anyone who needs to self-parent themselves. This is literally for anyone who needs to self-parent. And this is anyone who is a parent. And then there is the kindergarten and first grade. This is fantastic. This is almost like, it's almost perfect. Everything's right where it needs to be. But after they get to first grade, I strongly recommend homeschooling. I strongly recommend homeschooling at that point. And the conversation you're going to have with your child when they hit 7 years old is going to be not what do you want to be when you grow up. That's not it at all. It's you have a relationship with the truth. And this is the meaning of life. This is the meaning of everything. It's you have a relationship with the truth. And your relationship to the truth is going to determine your relationship with the self. Boy, that's really true, guys. Your relationship with the truth is literally the defining thing of what your relationship with the self is. Because the self is the soul, which is pure truth. So you've got these three massive pillars: truth, the self, and your soul, which is just pure truth. And your soul, calibrated with the truth, has a relationship, and that is your intuition. Your intuition measures your soul in ratio to the truth. And your soul is doing nothing but drawing you closer and back to truth. And that's all it is. It's trying to integrate back to truth. It wants to integrate back to truth. And that is all your soul wants, is to integrate back to truth. And for every lie you tell, every lie you're told, every piece of false information that's put into you, it goes into you and it takes you further away from the truth. That is disintegration, the opposite of integrating into truth. The process of integrating into truth is love, is growth, is logic. And the self is going to be in ratio to the truth for your soul's health. This journey is called the Asha journey. It is the Asha journey. The people who are really, really traumatized will start off by calling it healing. But after a while, you realize it's actually a pilgrimage. And then when you get here, you realize, oh, it's Asha. So instead of going, it's healing, it's a pilgrimage, it's Asha, let's just call it Asha because it's Asha. It's the Asha journey. And you're going to have many types of journeys through all of your life. These little journeys are components that integrate into a greater whole. And the greater whole is your Asha journey, your wisdom journey. And you are going to the point of truth, which is Rata, just truth. There is nothing else. You're not going toward an actual destination. It's a state of being. Because when you are at this state of being, it unlocks your next level of awesomeness. There's no other way to put it. It's the next level of awesomeness. I would refer to this as the second journey. Literally, it is the second Asha journey. The majority of people are in the pre-journey. The majority of people aren't even on a journey. They're drifting. They are just drifting. They're drifters. Drifters are druj. There's no other way to put it. Drifters are druj. The people who start poking around in the pre-journey, those are healing. And by the time you reach pilgrim status, you are in your second journey. Or I'm sorry, you are in your first journey. The first journey, and I'm going to show you here, the healing journey starts literally the 1st through the 6th. The pilgrimage goes from 7 up to 36. The second journey, there's a gap. What is going on, Lizzie? What's she doing? What's he doing? What's he playing with? Is the there was a gap. There was a gap. And then after the gap, it began the next level. So there's another 36 levels. You know what it is? I know what it is. It's the 1 through 6. It's the 1 through 6 again. That's the gap. So the first 6, it's like there's a period of rest. Always there's a period of rest, 1 through 6. So yeah, it's the 7th plus. So it's the 7th through the 36 again. It's that 1 through 6. Now, the people who are drifting are in the 1 through 4 stages. And that's it right there. That is the big picture of, you've got drifters who are in the 1 through 4 stage. You have people who are in the healing stage, who is 1 through 6. You have the delusional. There's no other word for them. They are the delusional. The delusional are people in the oasis who think they're on the journey when they're actually drifting. I get those a lot. The delusional are I'm going to call them 2 to 6, who think they're on a journey when they're not. They're drifters, or they're disintegrating. So you've got a pocket of delusional. You've got the druj, the drifters, the people who are in the pre-journey, and then you've got the people who are actually on the journey, who are in the pilgrimage. The pilgrimage is people who are 7th ethic and on. And then there's a gap. Once you get there, you reach the point of comprehension, which is Rata, the point of comprehension. The point of comprehension is at the end of the 36. And then you have a period of 1 through 6 where everything is chill and you're just rebuilding, and I call it normalizing. It's normalizing. And then after that, you get to 42. Yeah, 42. You get to the 42nd level, and that's when things start to pick up again. And then you get to the 44 level. That's when you can see the next milestone, which is magic. This cat is just very, very perky. Kitty, kitty, kitty. He's like looking around all alert. He's so much fun. So there it is. That's where it is now. That is absolutely the journey. So when your child, and this is it, is we start on this, the moment we start banning those pots and pans, we've started it. You're in the first part now. And we're fine right up until we say no. And that's back to that again. It's your child must always be psychologically safe. Do not make the children cry. Let the child hate you, get angry with you. The only time you should tell your child no is when you set your own personal boundary. Like, you should have your personal boundaries, and the child should have their personal boundaries. And that's it right there. It's the personal boundaries. If you need to go, or if you make plans to go somewhere, ask the child if they want to go with you. Stop telling the child they're going to go. Ask the child. Always ask the child for their opinion. If the child does not want to go, why isn't it unanimous? Now, if you have to go somewhere, then either make plans for the child to stay home. You have to revolve your plans around what the child wants, just as much as the child has to revolve your plans around you. Again, equal footing. And then in addition to that, what you're looking at is you're going to have to problem solve it. Bottom line is you're problem solving it. And that's the challenge, is how to be ethical while solving problems. And you cannot violate the ethics to solve a problem. But this happens a lot with adults. Instead of being ethical and solving a problem, they abandon ethics and just solve the problem. And that's where trauma occurs. You cannot violate the ethics to solve a problem. It is unethical to violate a person's boundary or to violate the point of consent. If the child hates you, let them hate you. It's a good sign that they can feel psychologically safe enough to do so. Get angry with you, scream at you, but not abuse you. Do not let them abuse you. That's the line. That's your boundary. Cry with your children. Listen to them. Allow yourself to cry with your children. That's a big, huge thing for bonding. Absolutely no character assassination. Do not use the word shut up. Do not use the word whatever. Those two words, completely get them out of your vocabulary. And that is usually by the child's third word, no, that is when we start to see the deterioration breaking down. That is when we really start to see that breaking down. So could just call this parenting school. Parenting school. That's tempting, calling it parenting school. Wow. Parenting school. That's really solid. Parenting school. It's just Try to Healing Part 1 and Part 2. Parenting school. That really gets right to the point, doesn't it? And it's a word that we all understand, isn't it? Parenting school. Learn how to parent yourself. Self-parenting classes. Yep, there you go. Parenting means nourishing. That's all it means. It means nourishing. I didn't even think about this. It's not self-care, it's parenting. It's nourishing, self-nourishment. That's what you should be doing, is self-nourishment. That's why I hate self-care. Self-care is bullshit. Self-care is trendy garbage. You want nourishment. You want parenting. Parenting nourishes. You're a gardener. You are a human gardener. Either you got a human gardener for a parent or you didn't. Yeah, that's it right there. Parenting school. And I know you guys are just open-minded to learn. No one is more open-minded to learn than a parent. You are already humbled. You're already here going, yep, all right, I'm at that parent. I love parents for that reason. They are like wanting information. They are the best students in the world. Parents are the best fucking students in the world. They have mastered. You don't have to humiliate them. They got a child. The child humiliates them every day. You birth a child, boom, humiliation. Look how little you don't know. Yep, I got a child. What do I do? Yep, that's humility. That's humility. It's the feeling of, oh, this is my first day of high school. That is it. Your very first day of college, that's humility. Your first day as a parent, humility. I don't have to humiliate you. You got a kid. Done. You're humiliated. You know nothing. There's no convincing. You're going, yep, I know nothing. That's why you're here. This is so easy. Oh, that's probably a clue that I should be here because it's easy. Parenting. Learn how to parent yourself. Learn how to parent your child. Parents are the real teachers because all they do is nourish. And the first thing I would tell you is never send your child to school. Don't do it. Do not do it. You hire a tutor. You make sure the tutor is under my program because I'm working on training tutors on how to do this. That's huge. Is we're going to teach you how to do ethical tutoring, ethical mentorship, ethical nourishment. Ethical nourishment. That is the name of the game here. We do ethical cultivators, ethical leaders, ethical nourishment. This is feeling like, oh, this is where I need to go. It all starts with parenting. Parenting is the one. And that's really it. Parenting really is that solid core. It's the beginning. It's the one. And then from there, it's when you don't agree with your partner, you're disintegrated. You haven't integrated into a partnership yet. You must integrate into a partnership in order to do this. That you're supposed to have one parent between the child, one parent. The parent is actually the integration of mom and dad, or mom and dad and dad, whatever combination you have. The parent is the integration of the two. That's the whole point. But we're not taught to think in terms of integration. Because we're not thinking in terms of integration, we can't see problems, we can't see solutions, we can't see anything. We can't even look at a basic code or a chain and understand it. Because our brain was not taught to do disintegration. We see it as a child. We already are there when we're born. All we do is integrate. The process is interrupted by our parenting techniques and our society that we all got from our Roman war education. And that's it. And our Roman war education is divide and conquer. So divide and conquer is actually disintegration and consumption. And that is where you went to school. You went to the school of disintegration and consumption, which is why we have a rape culture. Is because your school was founded on the principles of divide and conquer, disintegration and consumption, compliments of Romulus, who killed his brother. An educational system is literally the summation of the parent. And the parent of your educational system is Romulus, who killed his brother. So now that's what's inside of you. To get it out, you're going to have to learn integration, which is Rata, which is the Asha journey. It's the only way. And this came from King Solomon, which literally is the parent of all of your religions, which is why you have the dichotomy of good and evil, because you have literally disintegration versus Asha versus Rata. I'm going to have to give this some thought. So thank you. May the kindest of words always find you.